This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring program that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Fred. Fred, how are we?
Very well.
First and foremost, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Very interested in life. Yep, expelled from school,
Yeah.
Bodyguard. You do your Muay Thai, you do a lot of training,
yeah.
MMA.
Yeah.
Bodyguard for Charlie Veitch, who's very controversial, hits the streets. People know you for your slaps, your elbows, which go viral, seen millions of times.
Yeah.
But like I say, you've got a very interesting story. There's more to the Bodyguard, there's more to the MMA fighter, which we'll get into. But how are you, bro?
Very well, yeah. Just I'm going out to Barcelona after we finish here. I'm going around Europe for 2 weeks with Tyler Oliveira, so should be good.
Jet setting?
Yeah. Apparently so, yeah.
Before we get into all the madness, though, I always like to go back to the start with my guests, get more of a bit of understanding about you, Fred, where you grew up and how it all began.
I grew up in North London, so I was born in Archway, and I ended up moving to Oldham when I was like 11, 12. But my mum was my like the help at my for my brothers because she came over from South Africa basically to work as like an au pair. Like you'll often find people from New Zealand or Australia or South Africa that come over here to work as an au pair or a childminder, and that's how she met my dad. And here I am. So we ended up staying in London, and then she had a kid by another guy. She was working in the prison service. We lived at the time behind Holloway Prison, and so I used to go to the gym and stuff in Holloway Prison. Used to go to the swimming pool in Holloway Prison because after she locked everybody up, we could go in there and just have a look at it. Have a look at it all. So I've actually been to prison, but just as like a casual observer, neither as a prison officer or an inmate. But she ended up moving to Suffolk, where she worked at High Point Prison, and then she actually met Myra Hindley there when she was working there. She used to be like, they've got a women's prison on one side of the road and the men's prison on the other side of the road. So Holloway's not there anymore. And then she ended up falling pregnant, and then the guy that she fell pregnant to said that we could live in Oldham at this place that he had on Clark's Field in Oldham, rent free. We stayed there for about a year, then he kicked us out. So then we were just stuck up in Manchester without any relatives or any friends or anything like that. So that's how I ended up in Manchester.
What about your real dad?
My real dad. He's my dad. I don't have a stepdad or anything like that.
Oh, so it wasn't a stepdad who raised you?
No. My dad. I've always seen my dad, and I've always seen him like. I used to see him all the time when I lived in London. But then when I moved away, I could see him like every other weekend or every other month, and then now I see him a couple times a year. But he's nearly 80 years old now. So, so he worked doing finance, and then he bought some flats in London for like, I don't know, £6,000 each or something in the 70s, and then ended up selling them, and then has a massive lake and woods now up near Scotland. So that's where he lives. So
pretty well off.
I'd say so. I wouldn't say he's like cash rich or anything like that, but he's done well for himself. It just shows you what a few flats in London is worth. It can buy you like a ridiculous amount of money somewhere, a land and whatever, somewhere else in the country. So,
but imagine trying to buy a flat in London now. You're talking $1 million, $2 million, $3 million.
Yeah, definitely.
It's changed days.
Yeah, well, he started a broadband company. So they hired out like an air raid shelter and was supplying like massive amounts of Wi-Fi to rural areas like near Scotland. So that was the business model it was called. Well, I won't say it was called, but it's now been bought out by a bigger company and they're laying fiber optic cable around the country. So like now you've got all these tiny little companies like Brisk and UFiber and whatever laying like really high end fiber optic cable around the country and providing like cheap Wi-Fi to everyone basically. So you know, because you used to have like BT and Virgin Media and Sky, and they'd be like they own all the infrastructure. But now it's much easier to put cables in. So that's how it's gone. And now he's a retired guy that just lives in Carlisle. So
What age are you, Fred?
I'm 34.
So we had you at 46 then?
45, 46. Yeah.
What were you like at school?
I went to school in London to a state nursery and a state school, and then I got kicked out. Sort of, well, I just wasn't having a good time in school because people used to. My mum always said I was a perfect angel until I went to school, and then everybody started being weird. I remember one time she told me I came home and I was watching my steps, like literally watching my steps, because someone had told me you better watch your step, you know. So I was like looking at the ground, like, you know, as a tiny little child. So I think going to state school kind of corrupted you and made you into, you know, it turns a lot of people into a disruptive, antisocial children, basically. So I went to a few schools, and then I went to a private school in London, and then I went to a boarding school in like on the border of Cambridgeshire, Suffolk, and Essex, really. So, but just because I say boarding school doesn't mean like there's ranges of boarding schools. So my mum used to work at the prison in High Point. And so she had a little baby to look after by herself. She didn't have like loads of time available to look after me, so Dad just let me stay as an expat boarder. So if you're an expat boarder, you stay there for 3 weeks and you go home one weekend every 3 weeks. So I absolutely hated it, of course. So, you know, I'd cry every day while I was there, you know, when I was 10 and 11, and it's a horrible environment, but the education was much better than...
It's mad though when you look at the schooling system. We all know it's backwards now, and you've got these young, healthy kids full of testosterone who want to be out running around, but we just feed them, sit in the classroom with the lighting, put your hands up to go to the toilet, don't question the narrative, and it's dumbing us down.
I think a lot of schools now they don't let you use the toilet, like you know, they make you have a key for it, or whatever, so you can't get off to class and get out of the classroom environment, you know, so you can't even go to the toilet properly, I've heard, in whatever you want to, at least in school these days. So
what did you get expelled for?
I got expelled for a number of things, for acting up and the rest of it. But one time I had a friend there called Ryan, and he was my really, really good friend, and he ended up leaving because basically if you're in the army, or if you hold a certain rank in the army, the military will put money towards your school. As he was there, his dad was in the army, so that's how he ended up being able to afford going to boarding school. So he was a pretty working class guy. But if you're in the military, you can get, you know, bursaries and whatever to go take your kids to private school. So he left, and he was my only like real true friend that was there, and I just felt like I didn't like fit in or anything. And I realized early on that like no one can actually make you do the work. So no one can make you do homework. No one can make you like pay attention in class or whatever. There's nothing they can really do. They can't hit you. They can't whatever. So I just checked out very early on and just thought, well, actually I don't have to cooperate with whatever it is that you want. So I just stopped cooperating, and then naturally getting into confrontations with the teachers and the staff that are there, all the rest of it. So there was a woman there who was the head teacher's wife, headmaster's wife, and she used to tell me, "Oh, your parents don't love you. That's why they sent you here, and you know, should be nasty to you in private when other people are around. Should be really lovely to you, giving you hugs and kisses, the rest of it." So it really messes with your head when you're a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, etc. So I want it's actually really stupid because I had some Horlicks, right, which is like a bedtime drink or whatever, right, and they wouldn't let me have it, so I freaked out, had like a stupid tantrum, and I was saying, "Listen, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to do this, rest of it," and then they took it quite seriously. But you know, I was going insane there. But you know, boarding school is a really horrible thing. If you stay there for a week and then go home on the weekend, at least you get some time with your family, you get some time somewhere to go. But if you stay there for 3 weeks as an expat boarder and then go home one weekend out of every 3, you know, you don't like have anybody there who you care about or who really cares about you in the same way. You don't like have any family or anyone that you're going to listen to. Your dad's not there. You know, no one's going to discipline you or anything. So you just don't really care about what you say and what you do. And so I ended up getting expelled from there, and I went to a pupil referral unit in Oldham. So
yeah, well, for anything the teacher, you're going to kill her.
Of course.
Did you have anger issues? Did anybody look into it? Or
I mean, I was angry at the situation that I was in. I didn't like where I was, and so the natural response is to be angry. suppose.
What
Angry and
happened
sad.
after that?
They waited a few days and then they expelled me after I had the school photo done, for that year. Then they got rid of me.
What'd your mum say?
What did my mum say? Just the normal stuff like, oh, well, you've messed up. You've been kicked out of every other school you've always been to, and why are you like this, etc. So I don't specifically remember what she said, but I was screaming like a little girl. I was like, oh my god, all my friends are gonna have to leave, everybody, and whatever. And I came from down there to up north, and I thought, oh, this is so backwards up here. People call like a cappuccino, and a jalapeno. I thought, oh, these people are all backwards, and blah, blah, blah. And then I ended up like, becoming heavily involved with living in Manchester, and now I couldn't imagine a different life. Really, I much prefer it to the south. I think Northerners are more genuine. I think.
What happened after school?
I went to college, and I did some more GCSEs because the pupil referral unit that I went to, you start at 10 and then you finish at like 2:30, and they have like Xbox as a break time. So I became like friends with all the teachers. I ended up getting about 4 GCSEs. I wanted to do French GCSE, but they so they didn't have time. So they ended up like I ended up coming out with about 4 GCSEs. So I went to college and I did some more GCSEs, and then I went to college and I tried to do media studies, which actually in hindsight would have been a really good thing to do. But I ended up quitting and not carrying on with it, and that's it really.
Did you have any plans, any dreams as a young kid?
Not really. No, not at all. No. I was just coasting through life, really. Like, you're supposed to just go to school and then go to college and then go get a job or whatever. None of that really appealed to me. So I just got involved in like metal and hardcore music and martial arts, and I just got on with enjoying myself. And that's where I ended up working as a charity fundraiser later on in life. So, convincing people to give to Cancer Research UK or Shelter or Marie Curie or whoever was on was given to us to go and work for this company or that company. We work for a promotional company and go and sell like charity lotteries and stuff. And I didn't really have any plans for the future. I didn't really have any like wild dreams or aspirations really at all. No, none really. I didn't really know where life was going. I didn't have anything to look forward to. You just get money and spend it on whatever you want to spend it on, and I was just involved with making music with my friends.
I think that's the majority of people at that age. They don't know where to go. You just want to spend time with your friends. How was the heavy metal stuff? Was that like, did you feel as if you were fitting in then with sort of, because we know heavy metal, like I like Iron Maiden and stuff, or the old school sort of ones, but I'm not a heavy metal fan. But we for me, looking at the outside of heavy metal, it's people when you see them jumping around and flying kicks, and it's mad. It's like the horror of music.
Definitely. I always say it's the horror genre of music. People have always got like a problem with it, saying, "Oh, all the lyrics are really distasteful and whatever." But it's like that's the whole point, is to be as horrible as possible. And so, but naturally, the people that gravitate towards that music are people that have got anger and depression issues and whatever. But that's a valid part of the human experience to be into. So it attracts all the people that have got borderline personality disorder to come and be in one room together and share all their
it's like fitting in. It's like not feeling alone.
Exactly.
I used to listen to Tupac and all the rap music, but that's all guns and shootings and drugs and women. That's just as disturbing. Obviously, you've got the horror stuff and the heavy metal where it's the music and it's the vibration from it. But did you feel as if you felt part of something?
Definitely. Well, I was one of the big boys in metal. Really, I was one of the cool kids in metal. I felt myself to be anyway, because I wasn't a complete dysgenic weirdo. So if you got like a broadly symmetrical face and you're relatively confident, you become the popular kid in metal. Really. So I was like, really enjoying it, and it was all loads of fun, and I was quite popular in the scene. I was part of like a little band called Gunishman. I was like a joke band about fighting door staff and catching STDs, and just like we didn't even
sounds like my kind of band.
We didn't even like produce a record or anything. We just play live in France and Germany. But the people who are in my band are in a much bigger band now currently, and they're doing really well. But the thing is with the type of people that metal attracts, obviously having a lot of self-hatred and being depressed and angry, it leads you to being a lefty, a lot of them. So a lot of people like that, they like to imagine a perfect world for themselves where everything's free and equal and about love and equality. But a lot of them are actually the most hateful people possible. But that's the reason why they want this lovely equal society, because they're personally like inferior, so it attracts like those sort of people. And then when you start to like use your pattern recognizing brain and see where the world's going, and you naturally start to fall in on the right side of politics. Like as you get older, like a lot of people, the natural progression is from being a lefty, because when you're a child, you like even as a small baby, you're like, gimme, gimme, gimme. I want the booby. I want the biscuit. I want the jammy dodger. I want this, and as you get, and as because you rely on your parents totally. So as you get older and older and older, and you start to be able to provide for yourself, and then eventually provide for other people, children, and you want to go forward in society, you start seeing the importance of right wing ideas and hierarchy as to organizing society. Whereas if you feel like you don't have any of that, you advocate for a system which actually gives you things for free, but you do it under the guise of love and equality or whatever. So.
Do you think you were more left then and you didn't even know it back then?
Everyone is really as a child, especially if you're apolitical, because you're brought up in the school system, and you just repeat things that you've been told, and these become like the unquestioned beliefs, like everyone's equal and everyone's the same, and all choices are as equally like relatable as everything else, and should be no judgment based on your what you've done and all the rest of it, so. That's where I'm at. Yeah,
it's mad that you say it's the heavy metal is the sort of the left. I never really look at it that way. But then again, and no disrespect to them, but there is a lot of mental health issues, including with the left. I'm not really political.
Yeah.
I have my own views in life, and I think it's just common sense. With some sort of, I don't give a fuck if you're left or right, white or black, what religion you follow. I'm all for how you treat me. If you treat me good, I'm going to treat you good. There's a lot of, like we spoke earlier, there's a lot of extremists in every walk of life, but I also have my own beliefs by being a father and how I see the world, and that's okay to have a set of balls and express that. You don't really get hate until you start being political or going to political events or whatever. Then you see how divided and how warped the world is, and that's a perfect plan for the people behind the curtain to then get people attacking each other. But for the left side of things with the sort of metal, I've never looked into it. That's a very good way to put it.
Well, when you start advocating for conservative political ideas, right-wing political ideas, or saying that certain things are good, certain things are bad, and crime is bad, rape is bad, mass migration is bad, etc. Right? When you start attacking lefty Marxist ideas, this is the identity that's like helped them feel all right in this world. It's like providing, like if you're like a down and out, depressed, angry, maybe you're a bit ugly, you dye your hair green, all the rest of it. Like these are the ideas that there could be a perfect world in the future. That comforts you and leads you to believe that you've got like a place as a revolutionary in changing the world to be how it should be rather than how it is. And it's like, the right like stands for nature, and we accept the world as it is, rather than how we wish it would be. So when we start saying, actually, no, you can't create a perfect world where everyone's equal and everyone gets free money and there's no work or anything like that, I mean, what a childish belief. Like, I shouldn't have to work, everything should be given to me. That's just like being childish. It's like, that's like the epitome of being a child, is like, I want, gimme, gimme, gimme. So when you start attacking those sort of things, these are the ideas that have like propped these like mentally like, depressed and angry people up and give them something that's like their whole identity, so no wonder you get hate and assassinations off the back of that.
What happened with the band then?
So I had a picture with Tommy Robinson because I went to his rally in the Panorama one, on Salford Quays, something like that, yeah. And so then he did another little rally at outside Salford Manchester Wrestling Club, sorry, in Salford, and it's now a little where it was now, it's the car park. And I had a picture there with him. It had loads of pictures, and I put it on there, and I had this like weird internet communist guy who we used to be friends with. He used to be in the military. He used to like go and throw grenades in people's houses. He used to get sniffed up and tell us about how he used to like, murder civilians in Afghanistan and whatever. And then he became like a transsexual communist making like, tranny porno videos and stuff. Like, it's just, I think something about, going to fucked up parts of the world and killing people just makes you okay with fucking a dude in the ass. So anyway, so he posted the thing, started a smear campaign about me because his girlfriend, who was also like a porn star at the time, got bit by her own dog because she kind of knew it. So I said, oh well, what's dog? I trust dogs' judgment about people, whether they like people, whether people are good or bad or whatever. So if your own dog attacks you, then it says something about who you are, really. If your own dog doesn't like you, so I pointed that out, and he went on a mad one and decided to start an internet smear campaign about me and got me kicked out of the band because they couldn't afford to be associated with someone who had a picture with Tommy Robinson. It was like, when you look at Tommy Robinson, like, he's got like really, really not extreme views at all, really. He's not like, a super far right ideologue or anything like that. He's just along the lines of like, Muslim rape gangs are bad, let's not do that. And everybody's all up in arms about it because of his working class accent. So that's how it all ended. And they still don't really want to be associated with me, you know. So that's totally fine. But like at the time, you know, my views were thought of as fringe, and now it's interesting because all those fringe ideas that we were talking in the past that would previously get you cancelled, they're becoming like the norm now because they're in everybody's faces, you know. So in the past, you could sort of close your eyes, put your head in the sand, and like duck away from the problems of mass migration and the serious levels of crime that are going up and the destruction of our ethnic replacement, etc. And you could box that off and just not think about it. But now, when you walk outside your door every day, you know, you're seeing that play it out. You know, when you walk down the street, you don't hear your own language spoken or see someone that looks like you. You know, so more ordinary people now are starting to adopt these views that were previously thought of as like super extreme, but actually they're just quite normal.
So a heavy metal band that talks about drinking blood and killings and rapes,
That's fine.
it is against you because you got a photo with Tommy Robinson who's
Yeah.
exposing grooming gangs.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That is backwards thinking, isn't it, though?
But 2 + 2 = 5. You know, like you try and argue with these people, it's pointless. It's like when you try and argue with a woman, you know, she's not bothered about whether you're right or not. You know, like if I say to you, James, 2 + 2 is 4, you say 2 + 2 is 5, and then I can show you 2 + 2 actually 1, 2, 3, 4. There's that's what it is. At some point, you might be a bit annoyed with me or something. People are forced to admit, like, okay, well, I guess you're right. But when you're arguing with people that are all about the way that they feel, they're not really bothered about the facts that you're putting towards them. It's like if your house was on fire and I started saying, oh, start trying to give you math problems or ask you your opinion on whatever, you know, you wouldn't be able to answer them. So these people are in like a heightened emotional state all the time, and they're not really asked about whether or not what you're saying makes sense. It's just about, it makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me challenges my beliefs, and that makes me feel bad. And that's where these people are at. So people like when there's a racist attack, they're like, oh, imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and it was a black woman and a white man or whatever. You try and argue these points to these people. They don't care. They don't give a shit at all. You know, it's pointless to try and talk to people who are so engaged with their feelings.
Yeah, there's no compromising. There's no common sense.
Yeah.
And once you lose common sense, you lose everything of how you should see the world. And I totally get it. We all see the world differently. The brain's a computer. We're all programmed differently. We're all programmed how we see the world. We've all got different levels of trauma. We've got different fathers, different mothers, different skin colours, different classes of money. Everybody's different. We support different football teams. You drink different waters. Everybody's different. My job is to understand how people see the world from their eyes. I've tried to interview many from the left and nobody will ever do it. And I don't give a fuck who you are. I just want to understand how your views are and how you see the world.
Yeah.
But it's like when you ask a simple question, it's like the hate and anger as if I'm judging or trying to target. I'm not. I just want to understand how do you see the world this way, that maybe this is a see. Is there any compromise to understand that?
But they're not interested in how you see the world. They're not interested. They're not arguing in good faith. They're coming at it with, I want you to do what I want or else. And the world has to be the way I want it to be or else. You know, and if you do anything contrary to that, then you're persona non grata. So
look how when Charlie Kirk get murdered in front of his wife and his kids, but yet look at how some people reacted to a man being killed who was a Christian man who believed in his values and his faith. I respect that. No matter what faith you've got, if you truly value it, you're not harming anyone. I respect that. But to see the videos of people who own businesses, women, men, to be doing videos and celebrating a man being killed in front of his children, like, it is disgusting.
Do these people have children? You know, do they have children? Do they have any responsibility other than to themselves? You know, they've had 15 abortions or whatever. They don't really. They're on that selfish level where they couldn't possibly put themselves in someone else's shoes and go, hold on a second, we're getting millions of people around the world to chant and cheer for the death of a father or two. You know, and like they don't think, oh, his family's going to see that. His kids are going to see those people being like, yeah, my dad got killed. You know, they couldn't possibly put themselves in someone else's shoes. They talk about empathy, but empathy is being able to put yourself in the perspective of someone else. And these people have no empathy at all whatsoever, but they like to imagine that they do. So,
were you taking a lot? I'd imagine heavy metal. You've been taking a lot of drugs.
Not really. I've done cocaine loads of times, but I don't really like it. So it's good for about 5 minutes, and then I don't really feel the call to do it again. So it's not like I'm lucky, really, because a lot of people really enjoy it. You know, I think a lot of people do drugs to make up for something that they're lacking. So if you don't feel confident, if you don't feel important or respected, you know, in your job, you can go out on the weekend and do cocaine and imagine that you're the big Billy Big Bollocks, you know. So I've never really had that as a thing because I've always done martial arts, and that's given me, like, I always know that I can go back on the mat, and like, I'm not saying I'm the best fighter of all time, but I know that I can go and do a bit there, and I've got a community there that respects me for who I am and what we do, and people that care about me, whether I beat them or they beat me, you know. So I've always had that little community there that's separate from heavy metal, really, the MMA community, which is really provided me the strength to resist being, going down a path of drugs. But I could totally see if you had no connection to your fellow man, no community or anything like that, and you're part of like whether it's metal or the club scene or house music or whatever, that's your thing. And you just do drugs and just pleasure yourself the entire time and make yourself feel all right, and that's what drugs are for.
I thought that heavy metal mob were all loved the drugs.
There's in the
I suppose in all walks of life, again, everybody dabbles.
Everyone's got the same got a brain that's got a reward center based on dopamine and serotonin. So anyone that can do drugs can enjoy drugs. But weirdly, in metal, really, drugs aren't as popular as they are in like other hip hop or other music scenes. It's weird. Like I used to work at Satan's Hollow, which is like a metal mosher bar, and people get very drunk there, and people do take drugs there, but like you don't see nearly as much as you'd see like in Rochelle Town Centre,
and Parliament,
or in someone's kitchen when people tell him weird stories, doing all kinds of weird faces and whatever. So it's surprisingly not as big of a drugs thing in heavy metal, thank God.
Why did you get into MMA?
Well, I've always done martial arts from when I was about 6, 7. I used to do taekwondo, in sports centres when I lived in London, and then I did a bit of martial arts when I was at school, and I've always just been into like Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and anything to do with martial arts. Really, I've always been into that type of thing. But then when I was so I used to have like a punch bag in my back garden and do like wushu forms, and like I've even got a book where I would get like Kung Fu Tai Chi magazine, and I'd get like the pictures of Chinese guys doing waving their arms around. I'd stick them like in a scrapbook of montages of like forms I could learn. I was obsessed with like all kinds of stuff like that. And then I got attacked when I was outside a mosque in Ashton. It was Pirates of the Caribbean 2 just came out. And I just watched it. I was there with 2 of my friends, and they walked over from the Ashton Moss retail park to the mosque that's just behind it. As I walked past there, these people said, these Pakistani gentlemen said to me, said something. To this day, I don't know what they said, but I said, sorry, what did you say? Because they said like, what? And then they just came and like beat me up for no reason and started calling me a white boy and beat me up outside a mosque. And after that point, I was like, I'm not prepared to lose a fight ever again. Really, so that's why I got into MMA more heavily, because it was live resistance and people that could really show you the results of learning martial arts rather than dancing around or bowing to a sensei or anything like that. So that's why I got into MMA really, and that changed my whole outlook really. From being 16 and growing up there was the first MMA gym in Manchester was called Defence Unlimited, which became SBG later on, where that was Carl Tanswell gym. And the second one was Manchester Ground and Pound, which was my old gym, which is just over there on Newton Street, which has been closed down for about 12, 15 years now, something like that. And in there was just loads of psychos and gangsters and just create all kinds of different random people, like from all walks of life. And it was great because we had this place called Van Dang Martial Arts, which was a martial arts shop that was next to it, and the guy that ended up teaching me, Danny, he worked behind the counter there. So we used to go in there, and there'd be like Vietnamese soap operas on at like deafening volume, because the guy that ran the place was like a Vietnamese, was a deaf guy. We could just about hear. So you go in there and there'd be like this tiny little Vietnamese guy and be like, "Oh, good boy, how's it going? Hello." And you go and look, and there's like Chinese kung fu weapons everywhere and martial arts stuff everywhere. So for me, I used to just go in there and just spend hours talking nonsense about kung fu with my coach in there. And then he was like, "Oh, come up and do some training with us if you want," because next door they had on 12 Newton Street, they had about 6 different martial arts gyms. There was a Jeet Kune Do gym and a Ninjutsu gym and a Muay Thai gym and all kinds of different things over like 3-4 floors. So it was like a martial arts mecca for Manchester at the time, and we used to get people coming in there off like building sites, to try and like find someone to have a fight with. Oh, how do you do martial arts? And they get beaten up by a guy who puts his freaking school uniform on afterwards, And it was and we get people who were like weird martial arts nerds that come in and be like, "Oh yes, we'd like to do some sparring," and they get beaten up, and it was just like a crazy place. We even had like the RZA from Wu-Tang Clan came in to try and buy like martial arts books or whatever. It was all kinds of people that used to come to that particular gym, and it was awesome for a long while. We had like carpets on the walls. There was no padding everywhere. We had on the post in the middle of the room, we had like a mattress wrapped around it, and it was never ever cleaned. No one ever got a staph infection somehow, but it was an amazing place.
That's the old school gyms where it's freezing. There's no heating.
Yeah,
the old barbells, like that's where warriors are
it
made.
was like Rocky 1.
Yeah, like everybody's got heating now. All the machines are cushions. You've got fucking hot chocolate and green teas and cappuccinos now.
The level of martial arts now is much better than what it used to be like, because everybody's like learning from each other. It's like an arms race. Everybody sees you know this, so I know that. You know that I know that I know that you know that you know that I know this technique and that technique and that technique. So the skill level is way up now. But in the past, you used to have like someone would be a boxer, someone would be a wrestler, someone would be a kickboxer, and they sort of. It wouldn't be linked up in like a unified MMA style now. Like now with Conor McGregor and all that, you know, you go into a lot of gyms now and people are more social media savvy and they're wearing Rolexes and they've got cool haircuts and they want to, you know, it's a proper sport now with promotion and all the rest of it. Whereas in the past, it used to just be like some people may have heard of who the Gracies were, you know, or had Pride FC VHS tapes. Can't talk. VHS tapes, or you know, The Ultimate Fighter, or UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3. I mean, I was born in '91, so I'm still
Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, that's that era. It wasn't as good. There were loads of exciting fights, but the skill level wasn't as good. But it was more like, I don't know, it had more authenticity to it back then. I think.
It was more raw.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm an old.
It's more.
I'm 34 now, so I'm like, you know, back in my day, it was better. You know,
it's like WWE now. But Conor McGregor. What a talent.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think people forget how good he was. He was all about his movement, a big fan of Bruce Lee, and he did move like water, Conor. When you see him on the mat, like he was...
Beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Beautiful to watch, yeah.
And it's sad how... Hopefully he gets it back, but he's just enjoying his life. But for him to win the 2 belts and what he'd done with Aldo... Like it's unbelievable. He was the UFC at that time.
Well, when he got into it with Floyd Mayweather, he started to box a lot more, and he started becoming more relying on like his boxing sort of style. I don't think that served him as well in MMA as his old like he used to work with that Ido Portal, where he was like had really weird movements. He was doing like capoeira and karate point style sparring and that type of thing. And it made him more of an interesting fighter to watch. It made him more of an unpredictable fighter to try and, you know, predict his movements, what he's going to do next, etc. So I think the early part really had like a lot more success for him, and it was more entertaining for him. But then he started getting more into boxing, and it became more predictable for people in MMA to fight against, I think.
Yeah,
so.
And he never really had a good engine.
No,
he's he did used to blow, and Mayweather. I think Mayweather could have knocked him out the first round if he really wanted.
I thought he did really well in that fight. I was on the load of acid when I watched that fight. It was fucking amazing. But there was scream at the TV because we were just like, you know, it was so exciting to watch it, you know. But the main thing that he provided was the promotional aspect, and he changed the whole game in terms of like how you portray yourself. And after that, it became like the fighting was still real, but it became like WWE in terms of the promotion and the face-offs and the smack talking and the throwing, you know, cans of Monster into the crowd at whoever, you know. It became more of like a spectacle like that.
But the promotion for that fight was unbelievable.
Oh,
I remember watching him on stage, and
it
was it made him a superstar.
Yeah,
and to fight Mayweather 100 million, and then I think he fought Nate Diaz.
Yeah,
which Nate Diaz was massive, and he still took the fight on. Then came back and beat him. Like, unbelievable career. And I used to watch him, what are you talking, maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah.
This time. But he was talking about the law of attraction. He was talking about the head and how he believed and how he's seen the sequences and he put it into fruition. Like, that is so important for people to understand. But now he's just went to the dark side a little with the drink and the drugs, and he's got a lot of family issues going on with all the shit that's in the media. So maybe that's why he kind of went off the scales a bit. But
well, blowing up to that extent,
yeah.
It's like when they say power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you get like the entire world's attention and everybody's kissing your ass to their fullest extent, now you've got millions and millions and millions and millions and millions, and you can do no wrong. You know, it's sort of I suppose it probably warps your perspective a little bit, I guess. Yeah,
becoming untouchable. Yeah, but then no one's untouchable. See, with the sort of MMA, do you think that potentially saved your life? Because obviously you were quite a troubled kid being expelled and angry. Do you think the MMA kind of quieting the mind down? And
I wouldn't know where I'd be without MMA, but I had no family in Manchester, and I don't talk to my mum very much. I got kicked out from her house when I was about 17, 18-ish. The only reason why I know so many people, I've got so many people in the community that I can ring up and say, oh, can you come and help me out? Or can you do this favor for me? And you know, how many people that you can really like rely on, but they become like your family, because once you've like twatted someone and they've twatted you, you sort of know someone on a deeper level. So it provides like, you know, a sense of community where you didn't have one, you know, So MMA provided that for me. It became like a family for me in Manchester.
Is that the first time you felt as if you had a proper family?
No. When I was living in London, we had my 2 aunties that lived there from South Africa as well, and then all my cousins who were like my sisters. And we all lived like, so they lived on Wood Green, Bounds Green area, and then my other one lived in Willesden Green, which is like near Dollis Hill, and we lived in Archway. So we were all in North London. It was really nice. We used to go around each other's houses for Christmas, and we'd all see each other all the time. And then when I moved from that to Oldham, and then I just had none of that at all. I had no one was there. I didn't get to see my dad very much. Wasn't really super on super good terms with my mother at the time, and I didn't have a family in Manchester at all. So MMA became that for me.
It's mad, isn't it, how we can gravitate towards stuff and it kind of keeps us, not alive, but keeps us sane where you feel part of something. I guess that's why a lot of people join the army and stuff, to feel part of something.
When Japan invaded Korea, they banned martial arts, and loads of other places in Asia where, even America, I think they stopped people practicing martial arts when they occupied Japan, because while obviously, you can't fight against a gun. You can try and you might win, but unlikely that you're going to win against an army if you're doing kung fu or whatever,
The samurais.
But it's the what it provides is communities of men that know each other and like each other and are willing to fight for each other and care about each other, and that's the main opponent to an occupying force, So I'd say get involved with martial arts and become part of a community yourself, and you'll know loads of guys that can come and help you out in a time of need or a struggle, and you can help them out, and so on and so on and so on. And you can build a community like that because strong men that care about each other. That's the backbone of society. Totally, because we create society and we defend society. So
yeah, but I always say it, but there should be some element for kids to be doing some sort of combat sports, because not only it teaches you discipline, but it teaches you ain't made of glass.
Definitely.
And it's the brotherhood, like you say, the people you spar with, you become best friends with, even though you might hate them at the time because you maybe get a couple of good punches, but there's an element of respect.
Well, all male friendships, if you look at how a male friendship group works, we'll be like, oh, you're a ginger cunt, you're a fat bastard, you're a fucking this and whatever, and you actually bond by insulting each other and being mean to each other and whatever, and you sort of like end up becoming closer friends. So with martial arts, it's like an exaggerated version of that, because you're actually physically harming each other to a certain extent. Sometimes you're getting slammed on your head or whatever, but it brings you much closer together.
It's fucked up, that.
Yeah, that's just how people are,
My friend group is ruthless, mate. If people would see our group chat, we're definitely going to jail.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how it should be, because you have to be completely open with each other in order to trust each other, But like, we teach kids how to swim, but like, how often do you actually find yourself in the water? Even if obviously we do go to the seaside, and we do go swimming pools, and you do go on holiday or whatever. But most of the time, if you're you're much more likely to get picked on the street and attacked on the street as a young man than you are to drown. Like, drowning is such a rare way of dying, really, but getting stabbed or getting knocked out on a night out is a much more frequent, like much more clear and present danger. But we put like zero effort into showing children how to like move your head out the way, or put your hands somewhere where you're in front of the things that come into your face, just basic stuff like that. And we don't show children anything like that. Yeah.
You always seem to have had yourself not in danger through your own faults, but there's always been elements of danger in your life. Until now, you've always got dangerous situations, but there was a situation where you got stabbed.
Yeah.
There was a situation where you felt this could be lights out here. How was that experience?
It wasn't as bad as what I thought it was, as what I thought it might be. I don't know how I would have reacted if I hadn't done MMA, if I hadn't been knocked out like 5 times, if I hadn't been used to being roughed around or whatever. I might have taken it a lot worse. So it provided a bit of the like, there's a book called On Killing by this guy called Lieutenant Dave Grossman. And he talks about how in the past, in World War I and before, a lot of people would intentionally miss because they didn't want to shoot another person, or they'd freeze, or they'd reload their gun and act like they're doing something, etc. So they had to like bring in like while you're shooting at a target, they'd blow something up nearby, so you'd get used to the stress and the loud noises. They do the same thing with riot police training and with the horses or whatever. They'll expose them to like air horns and things that would otherwise stress them out or whatever. So you're used to training in a realistic environment. Then they moved it from bullseyes to figures of people, and so when they're training snipers, they'll have like model people with like balloons full of blood that they'll shoot, so that when you've seen it, it's happened before. So getting used to the stress of fighting allows you to be used to stress just generally in your life. So when I got kidnapped, I got kidnapped by a bunch of guys who were looking for my friend over a beef they had in North Manchester. they were trying to look for him. So we were using his van to help my other friend move house. We were just moving his like personal belongings from where he was living to where he was moving to, and they followed the van. And so when we parked up, they just came in the van and got me and pulled me out and put me back of a BMW X5, I think it was. They took me to Boggart Clough, which is in Blakely, and they were holding a gun to my head and trying to get information as to whether or not where my friend was and where he lived and all the rest of it. And I said, well, I don't really know, because I didn't really know. I just like used to know him a bit. I was only using his van. It wasn't like my. He became a much better friend later, but I didn't have loads of personal information to him. So I can talk in a clear way. I was like, oh, should I buy weed from the guy, man? I'm just going to university and whatever. And so they ended up letting me go after stabbing me in my bumhole. So that's how it happened, really. So yeah, but it didn't affect me so much because I was more concerned with just trying to leave the situation and looking for any exit to the situation. And that's what martial arts gives you. Like, even the worst situation, you can think about, like, can I make it better in somehow, rather than going, oh my God, I'm gonna die, what am I gonna do, etc. Like, that doesn't help anybody. So if you don't train martial arts, you're more liable to break down in hysterics than if you did. So
how does that shape you then? Does that make you become more focused on martial arts because you know the dangers that are out there?
Well, it's all about probability. Like, there's no solutions, there's only trade-offs, so you can learn martial arts as much as you want. If 12 guys come and try and attack you with weapons, you fucked, aren't you? So but it allows you to have a greater probability of surviving. And so focusing on it lets you feel like you're doing something about the situation, and maybe you'll have a greater chance of surviving one of those type of encounters, but it's no guarantee.
So you became a bouncer as well. When did that happen?
About 8 or 9 years ago, something like that. So my friend was just working at that wave bar over. It's actually owned by this hotel over on there. It used to be like it was like Piccadilly Gardens, but on the inside with alcohol. And then I was just talking. I used to go in there and hang out with him all the time. He's like, listen, you need to go and just get your SAA badge. So I went into the job centre at the time, and the job centre puts you on courses, because the job centre pays for everyone to do SAA courses now. So now you'll find loads of people that don't speak English and can't do the job properly and don't deserve to be anywhere near a front door of a nightclub or anything doing the job. But I got my badge for free from doing that, and I ended up working as a bouncer in Manchester and Oldham and Rochdale and elsewhere, Wilmslow, all over the place, really. So
what sort of bouncer were you? Because we know now we've got all different bouncers. We've got the big scary bastards who probably can't fight. You've got the peacemaker. You've got one who talks to everybody. Like, a lot of boxers and MMA guys do the doors because they can handle themselves and like to defuse the situation. Majority of them like to fight as well. It gives them free punches. But what sort of bouncer were you?
I used to just really enjoy the job personally, because I used to like enjoying watching other people fight, like across the road after we kicked them out. It's not a problem anymore. That's always fun. The close protection world is very boring. Like if you're working for a football team or a famous celebrity or whatever, you might go and park outside a fancy restaurant, or you'll be on a residential security team on a mansion that occasionally gets someone with trying to take a picture or something. But most of the time, you've got the people that are employing you've got so much money, and to employ 5, 6, 7, 10 guards. So you might be stuck in a hotel lobby for 12 hours doing nothing. So it's a very boring job. But working the doors, there's people to talk to, things that are going on, arguments that unfold. And I just enjoy a good argument, really. So I just like to have a bit of back and forth with people, and occasionally, you twist someone up. But I don't feel the need to really beat anybody up, because when you do martial arts, you've done that with people that are really much more skilled and can beat you up back. So you don't get the same enjoyment out of whacking people. So a lot of people think, oh well, bouncers, they're just horrible bastards and whatever, because you're drunk and you've done something wrong and you feel bad, and all you can remember about the fact is that the doorman is a cunt because he didn't give you what you want or whatever. But then I used to hate doorman myself. I used to fight with them all the time when I was a young lad, and then I ended up becoming a doorman, and I was like, oh, I was actually my fault. That's what do you know what I mean? So it's I wasn't any particular type of bouncer. I wasn't like a big tough guy, or I wasn't like a just a shirt filler or anything. I just did the job, let people in. If you do anything wrong, then you leave. Simple.
Did you have much trouble?
There's always trouble. Anywhere there's alcohol and drugs, there's always trouble.
Do you know how that way you throw someone out? In Glasgow, my dad was a bouncer. He worked in many of the big clubs, but people used to come back with the shotguns and the machetes, because obviously it was a tough job then, but I think back then we used to have a nightclub called the Savoy, but the bouncers used to fucking leather people. They used to batter them blind.
Well, it's still like that in Spain. If you go to Benidorm, it's still like
Spain,
that.
the police will do that in Spain. Like it's old school 80s sort of mentality. You don't fuck with the bouncers, because we used to know, don't go to that club because they will kick fuck out you. But did you ever have anyone come back with any tools or any blades?
Not really. I've got a lot of people that say that type of thing. Everyone likes to say, "Oh, I'm gonna go. My friends are gonna turn up on the car park in half an hour. You wait till you're finished and whatever." But people say that to me all the time, you know. So it's
When
I have had people come back.
When do you separate that though? Because 99.9% of people just waffle shit. They're drunk. They wake up with a hangover for the fear. But there's always that 1%, 0.1% who will wait in your garden or follow you home from work. Like, can you? Because if there's no meaning to it, like the boy who cried wolf, but if you're crying that wolf fucking 1,000 times and nothing happens, do you think you can switch off?
Well, yeah, but you know, like if you're a doorman, like in a community, you get to know the people that are involved, and you get to know the people that come to your club all the time and come to your pub all the time, and you end up becoming friends with them, and so you get them to do the job for you, really, of calming everybody down. So it's once you become established and respected in a certain place, then you know it's it becomes like socially unacceptable to say something like that, because the owner will know you're not going back there. You can't go and socialize with all your friends and all the rest of it. So it's not always like that. You know, in the past, you know, you'd have CCTV, which would be like one frame, 4 seconds, another frame. You know, so like in the Jamie Bulger killer, you know, if you looked at the CCTV for that, there was like who's there. But now you've got really, really advanced CCTV that can see everything. Sometimes you can even hear people wearing body cams, all the rest of it. So it's not the same. And like the nightclub scene isn't the same anymore as well. It's like majorly died down. So there's not as much money in it anymore. So it's much more well regulated and much smaller. So there's less room for, you know, dodgy people to really be involved with it, and that just comes because there's not enough money in it anymore. So they've got better stuff to be doing, like going out and selling drugs to people that are at home in kitchens telling stories, you know. So yeah, you know,
now that you put it up with the body cams and not as many people, it will not be as fun, I'd imagine, or not as exciting as it used to be.
Well, it's not as lucrative. Like, you know, the hacienda, like it's there's so much money to be made from drugs at a club like that in the 90s that it attracts people that are willing to use extreme violence and have guns and all the rest of it. But like like now, it's not that lucrative to get to be involved in the drug scene in nightclubs and the rest of it, you know.
So how did the Charlie Veitch stuff start?
Well, I'd seen him about while fundraising. I'd met him doing that, and then I used to work at a jewelry store called Boodles, and he knows all the security guards in the city centre, because he'd always been in the city centre filming, etc. So at Boodles we used to have one guard outside, one guard inside, and we do rotations. So I used to be out on the street on King Street, and he'd walk by and we'd talk to each other and about whatever's going on. And I used to put, like, you know, stickers up and take other people's like weird lefty stickers down, and I'd put stickers up to say, like, you know, smash cultural Marxism and, you know, anti-communist action and stuff. So I used to wage like a propaganda sticker war and then take everybody else's down and the rest of it. So we ended up bonding over that type of stuff. He was walking down the street watching like a Alex Jones video on his phone or whatever. So you know, we got a lot in common like that. And then it was lockdown, then it wasn't lockdown, then it was lockdown. So there was lockdown protest. So I'd see him out about on the protests, and we just ended up becoming friends like that. And then I used to come out with him because it'd be fun. And then obviously the amount of abuse that he gets, and the people trying to grab his camera and swat the camera away and interfere with him filming, I ended up just naturally being like, no, you can't do that, I'm sorry. And then he realized if you do that enough, that's like a job into itself, really, you know. So that's how I ended up working for him. He was like, well, I'm making money from YouTube, you're doing this job for me, so you may as well have a portion of it. It makes me more free to be funny and say what I want on camera, you know, without, cause when you know, if you're afraid, you don't have the ability to say like witty remarks, you know. And like people are like, oh, you're a coward, Charlie, you're this, whatever. I'm like, he's not a fighter, he's not a security guard. His job is YouTube vlogger who likes to say funny things on camera. Like, he doesn't have to be a fighter, you know. So, and he doesn't deserve to be accosted for having the wrong opinions or attacked for people that disagree with him or anything. So his job is to make the content, and my job was to allow him to make the content, and that's fine.
How much shit does he actually get, Charlie? How much abuse does he get? Is it potential life or death, or is it just a case of maybe getting beat up? Or we're at that stage now where people are getting killed? Is that a possibility?
Well, it used to be like 90% positive and then 10% like people who are hostile. Now I'd say it's about 20% hostile, but that's enough. You know, like like in the American Civil War or the Revolutionary War, it was like 2 or 3% of people that ended up actually fighting. So it's only, it only takes one person who's committed with a knife or a weapon to do something horrible, really. So it doesn't matter how many people are really like popular, how popular you are. There's always one person that's going to hate you. But he can't stand around in Manchester in the city centre without being, someone going Charlie Veitch and then being mobbed up on it. And most people want to shake his hand and take a picture, and there'll be a number of people that want to stand around, take photos, and just see the drama unfold. And so it's he's there's not one person in Manchester that doesn't know his name, I don't think. So it's impossible for him to walk around. He's been doing YouTube before it was owned by Google, so that's how long he's been on there making videos, and so that's how well known he is. So he can't live a normal life without someone there to just make sure he's gonna be all right, really.
What was it like doing the first viral video when you're done with him? Do you remember it?
I remember elbowing that kid, yeah, and that was I was like, wow, that's going to be a very popular video, and then it turned out to be a very, very popular video. So, yeah, it was I've watched it a few times, but yeah, it was just I don't know. I used to come back when I first started working with him, and I'd get in the shower and I'd be having like a weird little panic attack, like I'd be like, and then after a while you get used to the stress of it. At various times I've been followed down the street by a guy carrying a TV that was going to take to cash generators, who's like trying to start a fight with me while holding a widescreen TV in his hand. Like it starts off in Manchester like it's about, what time is it now? Like 12ish something. So if you come to Manchester now, it's okay for a bit, and then people start waking up from their drunk stupor, and they go to town to hang out. And then as you get to 5, 6 o'clock, it becomes like, Grand Theft Auto, where you start off on like 1 star, and then as you progress, it goes to 2, 3, 4. Then there's the helicopters that are out and the tanks that are out, trying to get you or whatever. So it's that's how it's just predictable in the city centre. If you chill around for more than a few hours with Charlie Veitch, eventually there'll be a mini riot at some point.
Every day?
Well, every Saturday. At a certain point, it was like there would be a giant commotion where we'd have to like go and take him into Primark or into TK Maxx or try and retreat, because like while there's only like maybe there's 4 or 5 or 6 people that are hostile and really trying to kick off, there's suddenly a giant crowd because of how well known he is. There's a crowd that forms, and so it turns into like a street-wide little drama that like plays out over 2 hours, and so it becomes like, even if you're not involved with it, there's still like a giant crowd which attracts more people and more people and more people. Then you've got to watch to see who's friendly, who's neutral, and who's actually hostile, and so it becomes like it becomes predictable every if you hang about on the gardens for more than a few hours, someone will bother you.
What was your daily routine like? Were you going out just winging it, or was it planned to then cause a little chaos and drama?
Well, I mean, he's a funny guy, and occasionally he winds people up. That's true. But what you don't see is that like someone will walk past him and be like, "Yeah, you're a fucking nonce," or you'll say something to him, and then he'll get his camera out and go, "Excuse me, what are you saying?" And then, so to the observer, it looks like he's started it all, but you haven't seen what happened 2 seconds before someone came up to him and tried this or that. So it looks like, from his perspective, like he's winding them up, but in reality, a lot of the time they're coming to us. Like people are always going, "Oh yeah, Fred, you pick on the weak and vulnerable and whatever," because like that elbow kid, he's not like a pro fighter. The guy that I kicked and slapped, he's not a pro fighter or anything. The guy that I kicked, elbowed and kicked in Liverpool, he actually has had two fights in MMA, believe it or not, and he's abused his dog. He's on camera abusing his dog. He did. What do
you mean abuse his dog?
Isn't like the video of him? He's got a conviction for. He's called Radman, something like that. Radman. I forget what his first name is. Anyway, but he's like a committed lefty, and he's on camera with a big stick hitting his bull mastiff that he's like starved and banging on its kennel and scaring it on purpose, and so he's got a conviction for that. But these people, like I say, they're not like super scary prospects. But if you actually watch, and most of the video, they don't hit anybody. I really don't hit anybody, and I try and de-escalate it and I try and move people away from it as much as possible, because the whole content is going to where people are in order to film them who are going to be hostile, so you can't stay away from it completely. But I'm moving people away. I'm giving people plenty of chances to go away and leave us alone. I even say like, let's stay back, go away from me. And at a certain point, I end up whacking them. But with as far as the so we're not trying to cause any drama, but it will find you. If you're hanging about with Charlie, it will find you. So the routine is the way Manchester is basically. Is in other parts of the UK, you'll have like different centres where antisocial behaviour goes on, like in certain parts of the city. Whereas in Manchester, because of the square and Market Street is so busy, it's got all the migrants, all the crackheads, all the drug dealers, all the drunks, and then all the tourists and all the Chinese exchange students, and then also all the general public that are doing the shopping. It's just condensed them all into one big content farm in the middle of Manchester city centre, with almost no police. So really, it doesn't matter who you are. If you go there and stand there for an hour, you will see various crimes. That's how it is.
Who's your biggest haters? What group?
The
left.
Recently Islamists, but lefties, yeah, they try and put my license number on the internet and try and get me, reported to the SIA to get my badge revoked. They try and find out what my car reg number is, and they're trying to find out where I live, and just to try and ruin your life essentially. But it's hilarious really, because they'll come up to you, try and touch you, try and grab your camera, try and hit you, and by you putting your arm out and saying no, actually you're not allowed, then once you touch them, everybody will go, oh my god, I can't believe you're doing this or whatever. So I can't believe you don't touch it, don't do this. You're that's assault. They'll become legal scholars after you've stopped that. You said no, you can't grab someone's camera. I'm sorry. So like I say, it doesn't matter though, because whether, like I say, 2 + 2 = 5 to these people. So they're not asked about whether or not you're actually really in the right or not. They just don't like you, and that's how it is. They view me as an enemy, or a propaganda victory that walked on legs for against the left essentially. So they want to come and try and take me down, and it's died down a little bit, but then I'm sure at some point I'll do something else in the future and they'll try again to expose me and whatever, so
yeah, they're always going to be a smear campaign, especially when it comes to sort of politics. But
Yeah.
the left, they're always very well organised, but it's only a very small group,
Yeah.
but they are the loudest.
yeah
You'll tend to see it's a lot of the same faces in all these protests, probably a lot of coppers there as well. They want to create the unrest, but they are very
They're the
well
organised bunch,
organised, and they're very sleek in their ways, where people are losing their jobs, people are losing their livelihoods, and that's why a lot of people don't go to protests, because their whole life can be ruined by, like you says, in your metal band, you got a photo with Tommy, and before you know it, you're kicked out. People are losing, not as much now, because a lot of people are waking up. We've got mothers and children now hitting the streets. It's not just skinheads and far right and Nazis and people who hate the world. It's not the way it is. I went to the protests. I'm a big fan of free speech and illegal immigrants. There's got to be some sort of paperwork, not just in the UK, but worldwide. I think people are so uneducated about refugees, legal immigrants, and illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Illegal immigrants isn't about race.
Yeah.
It's about people entering different countries without any paperwork. I've spoke to families whose daughter was raped, and there was no trace of the man who raped her because there was no trace of him being here.
Yeah.
That's a massive concern as a father.
Absolutely.
I don't give a fuck what colour you are. You've got Polish who'll maybe immigrate. The Scottish have done it in New York, the Irish.
Yeah, there's always been immigration.
Yeah, they're going there and working. There's people coming here in the hotels, taking the free food, taking the free money, queuing up the NHS, and there's no record of who they are. Like, it's just if you're willing to provide, if you're willing to work, the UK is built on immigration, but it's people not. It's not about.
I wouldn't say built on it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's very mixed. It's
Yeah,
multicultural,
yeah.
which is amazing for the culture. But again, Scottish culture's because of Scottish people, English culture's because of English people, but illegal immigrants is a different ballgame. You've got young fighting men coming over, raping women, raping children. Not everyone, I'm not telling everyone, but there's got to be some element of tracing who they are, what's their background, if they get criminal records. We can't be putting them next to schools or we're putting our children in danger. There's enough women now and kids standing up outside these protests to then go, enough is enough. But again, you'll have they'll have protesters against the protesters, which is fucked up in my eyes, because it's common sense. You don't have to fight and argue, because you'll see them with their little flag saying refugees welcome. Nobody has any problems with refugees. It's about illegal immigrants.
Well, they're not. Well, you can't really say that you're a refugee properly, really, unless if you move to this country that's safe before you've come here, then you can't be a refugee, really.
Yeah, but a refugee is someone who comes from a war-stricken place.
Exactly.
For women and children, by all means, you're more than welcome.
Yeah.
A refugee is someone who can't go back because it's a war zone. Illegal immigrants, again.
But they'll use the refugee thing
race,
as a reason for it. Like,
as if it's the same.
If you speak Arabic, and you get rid of your passport, they can't prove that you've not come from Syria. You could come from Egypt, but there's no war.
Yeah.
But they can't prove, unless you're like an expert on Egyptian dialect and all the rest of which most people are not. You can't prove that you don't come from Syria or from Iraq or wherever really where there might have been some trouble. You know, so it's used as like a loophole to get around. Really, I think they'll say I'm a refugee, but really, are they a refugee? You know, like if you're leaving your family and your community as a man, right, rather than like sending your women and children away, like you should be there fighting, like looking after, making sure that your own country is secure. I understand that not everybody can do that, and there's loads of horrible situations. Like I've met plenty of people that have come here from Libya or from Iraq that have come from terrible situations, and I you know, that's horrible, the rest of it. But like at a certain point, and you know, and we almost have a responsibility to some people. You know, it'd be nice to help. It's always nice to help people from a position of strength to get back on the feet if you're deserving of it. You know, but at a certain point, it's like if you look at international geopolitics, you got to take your feelings out of it. Like, how can we be responsible for everybody's problems? Like, at a certain point, how can we look after every single person that's fleeing from a war zone and take them to this tiny little island in the far west of Europe? That's just not a practical consideration, is it really? You know, and it's interesting, I think, is they talk about far right or rest of it. Like, you know, the amount of actual committed far right Nazis in this country is like a minuscule number. Like, if you look into far right ideology, if you look into like Julius Evola or Savitri Devi or Giovanni Gentile or Oswald Mosley or Adolf Hitler or anything like that, you know, these are like big intellectual deep dives on like the nature of reality, like whether you agree with it or not is really irrelevant. Like, but you know, to go in and say that people waving flags who like to go Weatherspoons and like a pint of Stella are like far right, like, you know, it's ridiculous. Like, but the people who you're tarnished as far right if you think that crime is bad. You know, they'll be, the lefties have these stickers that go, oh no, they put up. I like I say, I waged like a sticker war, so I used to take all these stickers down. The big one that you used to use, they'd be, no one is illegal. I'm like, criminals are illegal people, you know, by definition. So they want to change. They want to change the definition of crime. So like, well, murder is not is murder's fine, I guess. Then, you know, doing drugs is fine. Then, you know,
pedophilia is fine.
Exactly. There's, you know, in an existentialist world, you create your own meaning, and so if there's no God or anything, then like you decide who's that anything's acceptable essentially. So these, you know, it's not a far right position to say people breaking into the country and raping someone is bad. You know, whether you believe in communist reorganization of the state for resource redistribution, you know, or you believe in hypercapitalism, or you believe in fascism or national socialism or libertarianism or any of these political ideologies, they've got nothing to do with people coming over illegally and doing crimes. That's not an economic position. It's not an ideological position. It's a security issue, you know. Mm-hmm. So to go and paint all these people as far right for flying a flag, most people, they never read a book on what it means to be a fascist or a national socialist or anything like that. They've got nothing, you know. They've got no skin in the game for anything like that. Really, they're just being tasked with the name because it's a shame tactic, a stigma tactic, and it's crazy because it's like it's in the past. Like Adolf Hitler, you know, he's like the central figure of the 20th century, but like it's like 80, 90 years ago, you know, at a certain point, like, are we going to be like, oh, you're a Napoleonist or whatever, you know, like, mm-hmm. or you're a Julius Caesarist or you're a Genghis Khanist, like at a certain point, you know, they're using it as like as a method of tarnishing you with this association with this like mid-century event. And it's like we've got nothing to do with it now. The kids now haven't got any recent memory. Like we can still broadly remember. Like we might know an 80 or 90-year-old person that fought in World War II, but soon it's not going to have the same effect on it. And people aren't going to feel bad for having the positions that they have. You know, but it's been used to just tarnish you, basically. That's what
people are making a stand, which is good to see. But you'll see people who go to the marches and then go to a little stall and buy Indian food, and people are saying, "Oh, look, how's that possible?" Nobody's kicking Indians out or Pakistanis. People just concerned about illegal immigrants. You've got
I'm concerned about legal immigrants as well.
You've got dickheads though in every walk of life. You've got dickheads. We've got our own enough dickheads here that we need to sort out. Never mind bringing other people over.
Absolutely.
What were you saying about
people be like, you know, oh well, what about all the white rapists or whatever? I'm like, yeah, they're ours. They're our rapists. Yeah. We have a responsibility to look after. So we should import more. Like, you know, if you're 20, like from the Baroness Casey report, you know, where she was talking about they did an inquiry into the grooming gangs, into the ethnicities and the demographics involved. Like you're 27 times more likely to rape someone if you're an Afghan migrant, probably because we brought over all the worst people from these places, as we import all their criminals over here. So why are other people's criminals suddenly our responsibility? Like if you do a crime here, number one, the crime's been committed, the girl's been raped, someone's been hurt, whatever, right? And then we now have to imprison you at the cost to the taxpayer, you know, and make sure you're looked after. And then when you do it, when you get out again, we've got to like house you and make sure that you're looked after as if you were one of our own. when it's like, how is that our responsibility? And like, we're the British Empire, and for a while we had the authority over the world, and so with authority comes responsibility. And so like the people that fought for us in World War II, and people from our colonies in Jamaica or South Africa or Australia or India, we've got a reasonable responsibility to some of these people to look after them, and like the Gurkhas, for instance, we didn't give them. I'm not sure what their situation is right now, but we don't give them the same rights as what British people have, but we'll give some like Somalian guy who's escaping whatever mad shit he's done in this country to come and come over on a boat. We'll go and give him a 4-star hotel, but we won't like stand up for the rights of people that have like from other countries that have fought for us. But if you have like 1.4 billion people in India, right? Because India used to be a British colony, does that mean we should accept 1.4 billion? That's not possible, is it? So that's just on a pure math level. So at a certain point, you have to say, even if you're like the most pro-immigration person, on a pure math level, you have to say there has to be some sort of limit, So like I say, in the 80s and 90s, we had a load of immigrants over, but it wasn't like you walk down the street and you don't hear English spoken, or you go to London or Leicester or Birmingham and it's majority non-white. It's nice to, like every country, like they found like Roman armor in like in like Malaysia, Philippines, from ages ago. People have always got, the Vikings went over to America. There's always been immigration, but now you've got planes, yeah. So you can have a plane. With a plane, you can now go around the world in a day or two. So whereas in the past it would take, weeks and weeks and weeks of going around the world by a boat and, walking from, place to place or whatever. So now you can get large amounts of people coming to a tiny little area, how's that going to work out?
Yeah, you can be flooded with thousands and thousands within weeks.
Exactly. I mean, and
what do you think the agenda is, though? What do you think the bigger picture is behind it all? But why would it cause so much unrest? Obviously, we've got the problem, the solution, and it. What is the saying? Find the
problem, reaction,
and find the solution. A lot of people are now saying it's going to be like facial recognition and all that stuff to put in place, but there must be a bigger agenda behind it.
Well, like I say, when you impose something on someone, like with the ULEZ thing, people go around and start cutting the cameras down and all the rest of it. But if you create a situation in which you actually end up asking for it, for the security and for the state apparatus to get involved in your life, then you can't go, oh well, we didn't ask for that. It's like you've done it yourself. You've chosen that. You feel like you're a part of that choice. So when the situation gets so bad that it becomes like civil unrest, then the army can step in and take great control of society, etc. Maybe it'll go like that, maybe it won't, but that could be one situation. But also you got to remember, these people people that are in government are like when you look at Keir Starmer, he was asked like whether he was more for Westminster or Davos, so, and he said Davos, which is the place in Switzerland where they have the World Economic Forum come to meet up. So a lot of these people are like committed globalists and don't believe in the idea of a nation at all. They think that they're a citizen of the world, and so because they've got no connection to our communities. But like, people are group-based animals, and in order to have a group, you need to have people that are outside of the group. And that's the beautiful thing about the world, is all the nations of the world are different in their own ways. People like to live in their own way, how they've chosen in their own area, like unaccosted. So you've got room all around the world for people to live in like an Islamic theocracy or a communist dystopia, or a hyper, like in El Salvador you have Bitcoin runs everything. People like to choose all. That's the beauty. Like, I'm actually for diversity, but if you have everybody blended together, like if everyone's from everywhere, then no one is actually from anywhere, and then everything ceases to have any sort of meaning. So in order to like define yourself, there must be something else outside of yourself that you define it by. So, but these other people, they don't see it like that. They just see it as it's a world global community. But actually, people like to live in different ways with people who they relate to. And in order to do that, you need to have an area where it's mostly a certain people, and another area where it's mostly a certain other type of people. And when you blend everybody together, like, it works for a bit, but as soon as the times get hard, people naturally drift to their ethnic group and the rest of it. So you end up engineering violence. Like, if you look at Yugoslavia, you had Tiso, who's the dictator there, yeah, exactly, and he controlled Yugoslavia for a while with an iron fist. He had like a communist, socialist type authoritarian state, and then after he died, the Croats and the Bosnians and the Muslims and the Albanians, and they all started going back to their own particular ethnic groups and fighting with each other. Same with Iraq, when Saddam used to control it all through violence and through fear, and he had total domination. And then once he was deposed, then you were left with an artificial country with people of all different ethnicities in it. Like the Kurds don't even have their own state. They're split between Turkey and Syria and Iraq. The rest of it, they don't have their own state. So everyone ends up going back to their own particular group and fighting for people that look like them and against people that don't look like them. And that's just the nature of how humans are. So in order to actually have like friendly race relations, you need to actually have space for people to be their own ways, and then you can trade with each other and you can be friends. And you can go over to my house, I can come over to your house, but I don't like force myself into your house and say I live here now, or else. And so if you want to cause a giant fight, you'd have to, like, if people are prepared to fight over what football team they support, like, how do you think they're going to react when you've got like 20 different ethnic groups with wildly different beliefs? I mean, in Northern Ireland, we had like people think that civil war is like impossible, but we had a civil war in this country since the 70s with the Troubles. And people in Northern Ireland were getting on with each other, like they had their problems or whatever, but then you had Protestants and Catholics that were walking around, and overnight when the Trouble started, they became mortal enemies. They wouldn't associate with each other anymore. And these people are both Christian and both white. And like, if you're being realistic, over hundreds and thousands of years, this country's been a thing. Everyone's got an Irish cousin. Everyone's got a relative that lives in Scotland. Like, my family are Irish and English and South African and whatever. We've all, and if people are prepared to fight over those, like, in the grand scheme of things, tiny differences, and blow each other up and nail bombs and the rest of it, how do you think it's going to be when it's the Hindus and the Ethiopians and the Eritreans and the Pakistanis and whatever, all living in one situation? It doesn't work like that.
Do you think there would be a civil war here in the UK anytime soon?
I think it's if you look at the pattern of how other civil wars have emerged and the conditions that give rise to them, like I just mentioned, Yugoslavia or Iraq, or look at Kashmir. I mean, the word Pakistan means clean, or Pak means clean or pure, right? And because they wanted to separate themselves off from the Hindus after the British Empire left Southeast Asia, they wanted to not be ruled along with the Hindus or live in their like Hindu pagan way or whatever. So they wanted to create their own place with their own rules. And so if you look at the place where there's the most violence in there is Kashmir, where you've got Muslims living in Hindu areas and Hindus living in Muslim areas, the rest of it. So it seems like a predictable formula that if you get multiple groups of people, force them into a small area, and then turn the benefits off, at some point, they're gonna end up fighting with each other. That's what I mean when I say the right stands for nature, because it's like, it would be nice if we could all just get along and hold hands and sing the Coca-Cola song about life's a better world to drink. Exactly. We all would come by, but that's not how people are. So in order to actually have peace, you have to like account for what people are like in groups of people. And like, I can get on with people from any nation, any background on an individual basis, but when you get groups of people together, they act in like a psychopathic way. They don't have empathy for the outsider, etc., because that's the mechanism that has allowed people to survive in the past. Like, people relied on each other. Like, you have a hunter and a soldier and a policeman and people doing different roles in their society, and people relied on each other for food and for shelter and security, the rest of it. And so if we've grown up this way for millions and millions and millions of years, suddenly over the past 100 years, we've gone, actually, all that doesn't exist anymore, and we're all the same, and there's no difference between us, and we're all just blank slate individuals, but we're not, we're just not. So that's how it is. So if you want to be friends, it's like if you work in security and there's two people that don't like each other, then the security guards will be like, well, we'll sort of keep him away from him, and we'll keep him over there at this side of the club, and we'll try and not let them, intermingle and whatever, because you understand what the result's going to be. So if you've got people that are like India and Pakistan were going to kick off with each other, all of a sudden you had fights on the streets of London between Indians and Pakistanis fighting over a war that's going to happen thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away, because that these people don't like each other. So if you put two people that don't like each other, put two dogs in the same cage, they're gonna rip each other up. Do
you think Christians and Muslims can get on in the same country? I'm not educated enough. I've never read the Bible. I've never read the Quran.
Yeah.
I've got many Christian friends and many Muslim friends.
Same.
Always great people.
Yeah.
When I was at the rally, I got attacked an Uber, and he was a Muslim guy, and he was so pleasant, so soft. I'm talking about family life. So I understand arguments of both ends. I hate the divide. The divide, again, it's easy to control. It's still saying divide and conquer. We understand that. But do you think realistically they can get on under the same roof, or do you think they'll try and force their own religion onto other people?
Well, I think if you look at the Middle Ages, people were killing each other over what type of Christian they were or weren't. You know, Protestants were killing Catholics, Catholics killing Protestants, whatever. So it's not like Christianity doesn't have its own problems, right? But broadly, Christianity as an ideology is one that holds its hands out and say that everybody can be a part of this thing. So like Judaism was just for the Jews, for the Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel, and you had to be circumcised and be related to the rest of it. And then Jesus came up to reform Judaism and said that actually, no, you don't have to cut your dick up anymore, and everybody can be part of this like global kumbaya type movement or whatever. And historically, Muslims and Christians have lived in the same lands before, and Jews and got on with each other for a certain period of time. And I think
it's all under the same. Is it Abrahamic?
Yeah. But I mean, like you think of the world in terms of nation states that you have now with clear defined borders, but most people had never seen a map in the past. And in the Middle East, it's all desert, so there's no like real need to have borders. They'd have like Bedouin tribes that would be nomadic and walk around, but there's no. It would travel around the whole Middle East, but there wouldn't be borders in the same way as before. Even in Europe, you had like. You had like kingdoms or mafia empires of like broad spheres of influence, but like the Kingdom of Italy was only established in like 1901 or 1900, or Germany is like a pretty recent creation, like as far as the nation state is concerned. So people used to live in like what are called polis, or like city states. So like Jerusalem would be a city state, or Florence or Rome or would be city states, and they'd be self-governing entities, So Muslims and Jews and Christians have historically lived in periods of conflict and periods of peace with each other. So I think it's possible, but there's only one religious ideology that demands that you do their thing, whereas Christianity says, well, if you don't believe what I believe, then it's up to God to judge you when you die. Whereas in Islam, it says, fight the disbelievers until they find themselves to be subdued. So they want you to like what they like, or else. Whereas Christians are like, well, here's what I believe. You're welcome to join in if you're not. But we're not going to impose a tax on you, or make special rules on you, or take you into slavery or anything like that. So usually, I think if there's a broadly Christian outlook on society which holds hands out to everybody, then everybody can live in peace. But as soon as like I said, I've got loads of Muslim friends, really, because I lived in Rochdale and Oldham and whatever. So like I pretty much live on the border of Kashmir myself, and they're fine on an individual basis. But like if you create an area where they're the majority, then they'll impose their rules on you. Whereas our rules are live and let live. Like the English way is, I won't bother you as long as you don't bother me. You can say what you want, and as long as I can say what I want, and we can leave the disagreements. We can disagree with each other as hard as we want, but broadly, you've got the right to live in your way, and I've got the right to live in my way. And that's made us weak in a certain way, because we're tolerant of people that are intolerant of us. So just because you get on with someone on an individual basis, like I've got people from like through MMA, like I've got on with so many people from so many different diverse backgrounds. But when you get groups of people together and they elect representatives, they do what the representatives like them to do. That's why you've got people advocating for like an airport in Pakistan funded by the British taxpayer, because there's Muslim areas that have elected Muslim MPs that are advocating for themselves, because they advocate for themselves as a group. That's what every group would do. So yes and no.
Yeah, that's what I've been speaking about as well. When you go to Saudi Arabia or wherever, you'll never see any chapels. There'll be no kind of Christians as running as mayor or presidents. We've got a lot of Muslim mayors here.
Yeah.
The Muslims will be loving that. Like I say, it's the individuals, like you say, is very well put. But you're saying when people come in groups, it's to give people an understanding, because like we're not targeting everybody. I've got fucking friends in all walks of life, including yourself, especially when in the martial arts community. Everybody's different, all skin colours, all races, all fucking all religions, whatever. But we're living in a day where the whole internet can fuel people with absolute hate.
Yeah.
And we're living in a day and age where people are being gravitated. I don't know if the social media is programming everyone to choose a side. Are you religious yourself?
Sorry?
Are you religious yourself?
I was baptized recently. I'm not extremely religious myself, but I felt God's presence in different times when he's saved me or helped me in the past. I can't say that I understand everything about the Bible or what everything means, but I've got a belief in Jesus Christ and God. I'm a Christian, so that's what I believe. I can't say that I can fully articulate to you what it is I believe or why I believe. All I believe is that Jesus is sent to earth to kick everyone's ass into behaving properly. And I fall short of that standard, and so does everybody else. But that's what I believe in anyway.
See, when you do go to the streets now, say you're with Charlie and you've been baptized, do you think you'll try and see the world differently, or do you think you'll still be the same character?
Well, I don't do anything. I don't attack anybody. So all I do is defend myself, really, or stop people interfering with someone else. If someone else starts a fight with me, I'll fight with you until the danger's gone, really.
What does the Bible say about self-defense? Does it say anything?
Well, I think, like, yeah, there's turn the other cheek, I suppose. So, you're encouraged to like love their enemies, etc. Right? But at a certain point, like if someone slaps you on the cheek, offer them the other cheek as well. But a slap is a bit different from someone kicking your head in. At a certain point, you've got to play the ball as it lies, and defend yourself, I think.
And what about the boy you'd slapped and then the kidney kick? What? He went down like a fucking sack of cars. It didn't even look that hard a kick.
Well,
what happened, yeah?
If you get kicked to the liver, then you'll know about
so
what it feels like. Or anyone that's boxed or anything like that, you know about it. So he wasn't expecting that. He's used to being able to pretend like he's got a knife or has a knife and get what he wants by intimidation. No one's ever told him no before. But if he got anything like the ass kissing that I got off that, because I've had loads and loads and outpourings of support, because everybody that walks through any city centre in the UK, they see people like that and they go, I wish I want to slap in his face, and then I actually did it. So everyone really, really enjoyed it. Like I know loads of fighters that try their whole career to get as noticed as what I've got off slapping that one kid, and people are like, oh, he's only a kid, the rest of it. Well, listen, don't walk up to me pretending like you got a knife, or I won't slap you and kick you and then get off. That's like immediately after that, I didn't kick his head in or anything. I just got off. Because I'm not waiting for him to get back up and actually produce something. So as soon as that was done, whatever. But if he got anything like the ass kissing that I got, but in reverse, like that, I imagine that would do some. I mean, luckily he was wearing a mask, so not everybody can place him. But I'm sure a lot of people will know who he was.
How is that when you're on edge and you're getting surrounded by people? Are you ever not paranoid? Obviously, if you've been in stressful, it sounds as if you've been in a lot of stressful states your whole life. But how is it when you're being surrounded by people with masks and Charlie's there with the camera? Do you ever think, like, what the fuck am I doing? Do you ever question it?
Not really, because when there's maybe afterwards, but when there's a dangerous situation, you're just focused on whatever's in front of you. As soon as you start thinking about like other things like that, then you're not paying attention to the situation that's unfolding in front of you and how to keep your client safe and how to keep yourself safe. So, what's
the worst situation you guys have been in?
Worst situation that we've been in, just people throwing stuff. We had a giant crowd follow us down Market Street, and it was becoming like really hard to get away without attracting even more attention. So we had the police. The police were nowhere until like 30-40 minutes into the situation. So they were obviously watching it on CCTV. They could see a giant crowd of people walking down Market Street, and one guy was doing the same, pretending to have a knife type thing on him, and the police actually eventually found a knife on him. If you look on that video, you can see a group of these Yemeni teenagers. They were actually passing a box cutter around themselves. It's actually on the screenshot. You can screenshot on the video the point where someone has like a box cutter and he's passing it to his mate, like actually on video. So I wouldn't know if it's the worst situation ever, though. It's just like I say, I don't think about how bad it is. I just think about what, the Spartans don't ask where, how many are the enemy. They just ask, where are they?
And how's Charlie's mindset with it all?
Well, I'm getting it a lot when I'm walking down the street. I'm getting threats while I'm doing my shopping. I'm getting like people who are trying to dox my location, and I'm walking down the street. People are honking their horns at me and trying to film me and all the rest of it. So, but I think that's like 1/10 of what Charlie's had for years and years and years. So he's used to it to a certain extent. But then I think this. The recent situation with the assassination and whatever of Charlie Kirk, it is scary because it only takes one ideologically motivated individual to do something like that.
Yeah, does he ever go? He must not go out alone then, because his life must be in constant threat. Because I've seen some videos when there's been like 10, 20 kids chasing him up like escalators.
Yeah.
It only takes that one kid making a name for himself. Like
definitely. And they're not thinking on a consequence basis either. They're not thinking about the future. They're just thinking like, I don't like you. I feel a certain way. And people are gonna. And also, you get the recognition and the respect of people that don't like him, because you're the guy that's embarrassed him, or you're the guy that's managed to hit him, or you're the guy that's managed to do even worse to him. So,
is it worth
it for them or for us?
For us, you're getting the popularity, you're getting the views, but is it worth it, the hassle sometimes? Because now you're seeing how dark it is. Like, you don't want to be with your kid and some dickhead's recording. Like, it does put your life under a stressful situation,
well,
you know?
I started doing it, and because I'm 34 years old, so like I grew up on MySpace and whatever. I didn't really see the how big social media was, so I'm still operating according to the old rules. So I just thought it was like a job. I ended up hanging out with him, then I do it as a job, then I started to get noticed. And by the time you've been noticed and people know who you are, then it's too late for you to go back to a different line of work. So I've had to just run with it and try and take it even further, really, because I'm already at the position where everybody knows who I am. So I may as well get the money out of it if I can do, you know, because I can't go and work in Tesco's now. I can't go and work in Costa. So that's where I'm at. It's like, you know, like Tommy, you know, he what's he gonna do if he decided one day I don't want to do this anymore? What job would he do? You know, couldn't do a job, could he?
Do you think you've just went too far ahead that you can't turn back?
Exactly. So here
Do you enjoy it?
I enjoy it. It's fun for about the first like month where that's happening. It's fun for a bit because you're getting your ego stroked and you're getting your ass kissed and you're like, yeah, I'm really cool. I'm fucking, you know, slapping people and getting all these viral videos and whatever. And then, you know, the threats start coming in, and then, you know, you're trying to like open your front door to go in your house, and people are like, hey, you're that guy from that video. And then it's like a bit stressful or whatever. And then it's like, death threat, you're gonna die. I'm really cool. I feel really nice. I feel really awesome, and I'm gonna die. Someone's noticed me. So it's like it's strange. Like if I had an argument with you, a really bad argument, you know, at the end I might say something really horrible to you, and in the context it might make sense. Or like if you did something amazing, like let's say you saved some woman from a burning building, and everybody was like, wow, James English, you're a hero. I love you. You know, but now people come up to me and be like, yeah, you're a hero. I love you, but I've not done anything. And then people come up to you being like, I fucking hate you. I'm gonna kill you, but I've not done anything either. So your brain is used to like going, oh well, it's I can interpret things being bad or good based on if something actually happened, but then you're getting like the most extreme responses while you're walking around trying to do your shopping. It messes with your head, definitely.
And what you're thinking now, because now you see it firsthand when people are protesting, but now we've got the counter protesters. But what you seeing now when you see them? Are you totally seeing mental health? Are you totally seeing like these people are? Because we spoke about it. There's no compromise and there's no common sense. Like, what are you seeing when people are just all out, full of hate and rage?
I find the left pretty funny, to be honest with you. Like, I just like it when people argue with me. So when people start sticking umbrellas in my face, I get a kick out of it. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think it's fun to observe these people and to be around them or whatever. But, you know, look, you got to remember, these people, a lot of them are, they're the most organized minority, and they're being paid to come out here. That's why they've all got the same signs that say "smash the far right." Whatever. They're not making their own signs. You know, they're all there because they're told to be there. They travel around the country to be at the same protest. They look like they're like the local communities turned out against the far right or whatever, which don't exist. But you know, so I just find it interesting to observe, and it's a bit of fun when stand-up racism or some other Soros funded society decides to come and mess with me. That's the fun times. I like that. The crackheads are much worse.
Is there a dump after it, like with so much attention and maybe punching somebody or elbowing somebody, the next day are you drained?
There was at a certain point, but now it's like when I wake up, I go on my phone and it's this subject again until the moment that I go to sleep. It never ends. It's always constantly. So like now I'm like bathed in it. It doesn't give you the same spikes of adrenaline or cortisol or whatever you call it, you know.
Because I'm a big fan of like Alex Jones and David Icke. I know you like this sort
David
of
Icke.
Yeah. I've had David on twice. I'm getting him on again next month. Like when I was kind of going through a transition in life, I smoked a lot of weed, took a lot of coke, made a lot of changes.
Oh,
and they kind of gravitated into my life, but it just fucking made me even more crazier.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know about Twin Towers and Who Runs the World, and now we've got Black Rock and other certain things. And
well, David Icke's a great speaker, and I don't know if I agree with everything that he says, you know, about lizards and whatever. But I went to see him at Brixton Academy, and it was a 12-hour thing with like 2-hour breaks. So I've been to like a super you know, like tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy conference or whatever, and it was fucking great. It was fucking great. You know, he'd be doing like a slideshow, and then there'd be like Henry Kissinger up there, and then the guy next to be like, yeah, that fucking Kissinger, I can't believe it. And it was just like in a room full of thousands of like, you know, conspiracy theorists or whatever. It's very entertaining, you know. I like him. So,
but it's good now that everybody's questioning it all.
Yeah,
but you can lose yourself down the rabbit hole. People
Definitely.
need to be careful, because when you start looking at it and questioning fucking Walt Disney and start looking up at the skies and looking for chemtrails. I was doing all this 10 years ago. I think a lot of people, now it's becoming trendy. people don't really bother you as much with speaking against the grain. 'Cause David Icke was talking about weather control 20 years ago, and now we know what cloud seeding and
Well, you know, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a fact is about 6 months now.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, like, the word conspiracy is like, there are some conspiracies which are true and some conspiracies that aren't. Like, we're in this room now, we turn the cameras off and we plot to do something, us three, you know, then we've conspired to do something. Like, you know, if I say I've got a brick of cocaine here, do you want to buy it? Then the police will turn up and charge you with conspiracy to supply Class A drugs. You know, that's conspiracy. It just means breathing together. So any business that does something in private and doesn't tell anybody about it, they're conspiring together to do a particular task. So the word conspiracy theory is there just to attach stigma and shame to an idea that someone disagrees with. But navigating your way through them all as to what's exactly right and what's exactly wrong, that's all up for debate.
It's mad, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is fucking nuts. Like, your mind, it's such a powerful program and how we see the world, but your views and thoughts can change the next day to it was yesterday. Everything, it's mad because I know people went from the left to then they say they're on the right, but again, it's mad because Charlie was on the left, was he not? He was a massive lefty.
Well, you know, if you're not a left winger when you're young, then you don't have a heart, you know, because, you know, you might want everybody to have a nice time. That's like the deepest urge. You want everything to be all right, you know. But then as you get older, you have a brain and you realize that life doesn't work like that, and you become more right wing because you understand that the rules that govern society actually promote peace and harmony, you know, rather than destroying everything that everything that makes the world what it is. And starting a blank slate equalism type thing doesn't actually end up in the results that you want, you know. So that's normal. I think, you know, it's normal to be a lefty. And, like, you know, you've been wrong in the past. I'm sure you'll be wrong in the future about something that you've said. I've thought things that I don't think now, and I've done things that I don't think are right now, and whatever, you know. So, and I'll do that in the future. And then in the past, in the future, I'll be like, oh, that was wrong, but I don't know that until I've got there. So you have to, like, you know, allow people to be wrong. And that's what the whole thing about freedom of speech is, really. Because, like, you know, the more that these people come down on you and say you're not allowed to say this and you're not allowed to say that, it forces people against them. And, you know, what if in the future they were going to come to your position, and then but now they'll never ever come to your position because you come so hard on them and turn them off that hard. So it's like, you know, do you catch more bees with vinegar or with honey?
Since 2023, the UK has sent over 10,000 people, or jailed over 10,000 people for social media posts. The worst in the world.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Like, free speech is getting, David Icke again spoke about this over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Free speech is getting took away, and I'm massive for free speech. I don't care, and I'll interview anybody.
Say what you want.
From all walks of life. Say what the fuck you want. I might not agree with it, but that's okay.
As long as you're not calling for violence on anybody.
Yeah. And as long as you're not trying to force your own agenda onto me.
Absolutely.
I don't care, because, like I say, I treat people the way they treat me.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it being in such negative states all the time and out there? You probably love it, but can you see some goodness in the world as well? Because the majority of people just want to get on with their life. The majority of people just want to go into work and do their thing.
Well, you know, I went to the Tommy rally, and, like, broadly, I'm not a big left fan. I'm not a big Antifa fan or anything like that. But and I was with Autism Britain down in the at the Tommy rally, and you'll see me on his video. I was protecting him from just doing a normal thing where people are trying to grab the camera and everybody's going, Nazi, Nazi. I mean, the guy's Algerian, you know, so they're talking to a guy that's, like, clearly brown, right? And they're like, you're a Nazi. That's how little it means at this point. You know, they're calling Jews Nazis, you know, it's just like, make it make sense. But as they were all trying to mob up on us, there was one Pakistani guy there, or it might be Bangladeshi, you know, it was Indian subcontinent, right? And he had a keffir on and he looked the part and whatever. And he came up and he was like, listen, I really don't agree with Charlie, but I really enjoy watching his videos, and you're great or whatever. So and he like talked a few of them down. Was like, listen, just leave them alone. It's not worth it. So even though most of them are, like, you know, mob mentality, feelings orientated, there was one guy there, and I don't know what his name was, but he was a really nice guy, and he was like, yeah, listen, you know, we think different things, but that's fine. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe that really happened. You know, It's so rare, but it does happen. You know, so. You have to allow people to be wrong. And maybe in the future, he might come over to my position, and by being nice to him, you know, being fine with him and not, whatever, it might encourage him to come to my position in the future. And that's what we want, really. Like, you know, if I was going to sell you a car, I would be like, buy the fucking car now, you bigot. You know, I'd be like, I'd try and make it as attractive to you as possible. You know, like, these people have no idea how they come across. They don't like think about the optics of how they're coming across, or the things that they're saying, or how they're coming across in public. You know, they're just as angry as possible, and they think they want to fight you and whatever. But, like, you know, if they like they'll come out with signs which are expressing their positions, right, and trying to attract as many people as possible to their cause. And then when you film them, putting them in the faces of hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, they suddenly don't want the cameras there, even though you're out on a public street shouting as loud as possible to get the maximum amount of attention as possible. And then Charlie Veitch turns up, who you don't agree with, but then he puts a camera in your face. So now you're shown to hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, and you're like, stop filming, says the guy, you know, wearing the clown suit, you know, with the neon flashing lights on you. It's like, look at me, don't look at me. You know, it's bizarre.
How do you think the UK is now? Do you think it will improve? Or do you think it's going to get worse before it improves?
Well, if I'm being realistic, I think it will get worse. Because it's like, you know, when an addict, when they experience like a really horrible event, like someone dies, or they reach rock bottom and they've all their friends and family don't want to talk to them anymore, and they're out on the street or whatever. Like that's what causes a lot of people to change and put their life back in order, you know. And we have a chance to do it politically, but how often does it actually end up happening politically? Like if you look at the 20th century, this was like. There were two like mass extinction events. It was World War I and World War II. We've had like complete like conflict all through the 20th century, all over the world. You know, so that seems to be par for the course as to where we're going. We could, in theory, politically change something, send a lot of people home, and you know, turn this country into a normal country. You know, where just like Thailand or whatever. Thailand's got millions of people that turn up there on holiday all the time. You know, there's loads of adverts in Russian and German on the street. People, you know, you hear all kinds of stuff on the street, but the Thai, you can't just become a Thai citizen, you know, and you can stay there for a bit and then you got to go home. You know, that's a normal country, you know. So that's all we want, you know, is just a normal country where crime is not allowed, and broadly like there's rules on who can be here, who can't be there. And, you know, you can't violently try and change the country to something that you want it to be. That's just normal, you know. But do I think we're going to actually manage to change it without some sort of violence? Probably not. If you just look at the rest of the world, they haven't managed to do it. Like, you know, we had even in America, we had the Revolutionary War where they decided to fight against us and the rest of it. It seems like, you know, Thomas Jefferson, he said, peace is the brief moment in time when everyone stands around reloading. So that's what people are like. People are violent.
But wars is money. It's a big business. You know, you don't know if, I always say it, but I think whoever controls it and operates the way the system is in the world, they're already 100 years ahead. So the time we catch up to it, I think they've already moved on to their next stage, or their next level of how they're going to corrupt the world and stay in control. War is big business. It always has been. But again, it would be mad to see it in the UK. It would be mad to see.
Is it though?
If there would be but there's been,
like
there's
over
over
Northern Ireland was terrible,
yeah.
and you know, and we like the IRA detonated the biggest bomb outside of World War II in the city centre of Manchester, and people just carry on as like normal after that. That's how crazy it is. And you're to the point where you'll watch these lefty protests, these Palestine protests, and there's dudes there that are openly flying like, you know, our time will come, IRA type flags, walking down the street, on the street where they detonated a giant explosive and destroyed the city centre. You know, people just don't care until it affects you, until your money runs out, until there's hyperinflation and, you know, you have to take a wheelbarrow worth of cash to buy a loaf of bread. Then you just don't care enough. And unfortunately, by the time it's got to that point, that's when you get the really extreme solutions. Like what we're trying to do on the right, Tommy, or whoever, like, you know, we could disagree on Israel, or we could disagree on whatever other subjects, like, you know, ideological difference or whatever, but like the main thing I think the right are trying to do in this country is prevent a Yugoslavia type or situation, or the fall of the Soviet Union, where all the ethnic groups start kicking off with each other, by just establishing a normal country like we had in the 70s or the 80s, you know. But like, you know, you look at 1930s Germany, and we had the Treaty of Versailles, absolutely crippled Germany, and then they had the Great Depression. The money started becoming worthless, and what did? They went for the most extreme solution possible. So if you want to avoid that type of thing happening, if you want to avoid like an extreme revolution, all you've got to do is just make a normal country.
Did you ever watch the one with Hitler? Was it The Greatest Story Never to Be Told? Have you ever watched that?
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen some of it anyway.
It's fucking mind blowing.
Yeah.
And whoever wins the war does rewrite history. But there's a lot more to these dictators. The same if you look at the Gaddafi route or Saddam Hussein. Doesn't matter what the media portray. Like when Saddam Hussein, he was a strict dictator.
He was cool though.
But the fucking country
was really cool.
The country was running smooth. And if you look at Gaddafi, what he done for pregnant women, healthcare, gave people farms to grow their own crops, education. obviously done a lot of bad stuff, but not as any worse than fucking Obama or Tony Blair.
Have you watched The Sopranos? You know
The Sopranos, yeah,
Sopranos, right.
Yeah,
so Tony Soprano is like the most personable, guy ever. You love him. He's the main character. He's really funny, really well respected, obviously because he's the boss of the New Jersey Mafia. But he's a horrible psychopathic murderer at the same time. So the whole story of The Sopranos is about how bad people can do good things and how good people can do bad things, and you expect a dictator to be like this horrible evil person that's like just enforcing everything or whatever. But a lot of people loved Saddam, a lot of people loved Hitler, and so it's people like to make out like geopolitics is like a soap opera, where there's the baddies and there's the goodies or whatever. But in reality, there's just different levels of baddies who are also sometimes good. And
but Germany was one of the worst countries in the world, and I think they were starting to bring the transgender movement in.
Yeah, they were.
I think it was the first transgender was in Germany with the first operation.
Yeah.
I believe in the burning of the books was all about burning of the trans books as well. So
yeah.
a lot of people are uneducated. I'm not educated enough though to talk about Russia and Ukraine and Palestine and Israel. I just know there's bigger people behind it. I know there's bigger people behind the curtain who fund both sides of wars. I'm not all about the divide. I'm not going to put flags up my social media because I just don't know. I'm a Scotsman, I'm a proud Scotsman, but also love England, Ireland, Wales. That's my people as well. I travel around these places.
Well, we're the same, really. You've got a funny accent, so have I. So that's fine. Like Australians are our brothers, and Americans are our brothers because we're all the same people. Yeah,
and we talk the same language.
That's what I mean.
But so it's important for people
that binds us together.
Like
that's the true socialism. Patriotism is the only true socialism.
Patriotism is so important. But when I go to the rallies and support Tommy, Tufts my good friend as well. As if I should be doing that because I'm from Scotland.
No.
But I'm a Scottish. This is our island. This is our fucking place.
Yeah.
Like, I make money from everybody in the UK. This is my people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I go everywhere. I get probably more love in England than I do Scotland. And I'm Scottish. Anybody ever try to invade Scotland, no matter the age, I'll grab boots and a fucking rifle and try and protect more. And that's what people should do. That's what men should do.
That's how you feel now, right? Even though you can go and get a latte and you can go and get a flight to wherever, things are still relatively okay as far as the standard of living is concerned. But if you took someone like you and put them in 1930s Germany, where you couldn't buy anything, you couldn't feed your family, that everything was falling apart, and loads of your territory had been taken over by other countries, etc. Now you start to get really, really angry, and you get really, really freaking, obsessed with defeating your enemies, all the rest of it, and you end up going, you know what, this whole democracy thing, it's not really worked out for us. So I'd rather just elect some extreme guy that's just going to sort it all out for me, because it can't be any worse than what we've already got. So if, like I say, I don't want it to get there, because there'll be people that, if you're worried about Tommy Robinson or whatever, like wait till 30 years from now and see what happens, see where people are at emotionally,
Tommy called it 15 years ago, over 15 years ago, what was going to happen. People are making a stand, though. People are kind of uniting, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Just before I cut you off, you spoke about, because I'm all against illegal immigrants, I think, anywhere in the world.
It's illegal.
But you says legal immigrants, you're also against. Why? Not
entirely. But if you consider, like in the Boris wave, after we left the European Union, right, one year he imported like 1.2 million people. So, and then other years it's been 600,000, 700,000, 800,000. If you do that for 30 years, then whether they're legal or not, you've now replaced half of the population of the United Kingdom. So at a certain, and these people are all having 5, 6, 7 kids, and we're having 1 or 2. At a certain point, you'll go, well, actually, England is made up of the people who are English, and Scotland is made up of people who are Scottish. And if you have Humza Yousaf in Scotland, and you have all everybody making decisions, and then all of a sudden, like, English isn't heard on the street anymore, then it stops being the thing that it was, and that's the beautiful thing, is like, is the nation state, really. So we can have a bit of immigration. Like, look at Italy, like they're a bit more dark skinned because they've had, like, Moorish invasion. Same with Spanish people, they've got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but they're still Spanish. You walk down the street and you hear Spanish. You look at people, you see Spanish people. When I go to France, I want to see a guy riding a bicycle, playing an accordion with onions around his neck, wearing a beret and a striped t-shirt, all at the same time. That's what I want to see. When I go to China, I want to see, like, I want to. That's the cool thing. That's what's nice. You want to go to the Forbidden City, and you want to see, you go to Japan. It's all Japanese people, and that's what makes it Japan, because they're the people of Japan. They're the Japanese. So, you can't have 1 million people come here every year, whether they're legal or illegal. It doesn't matter whether they're docs. It doesn't matter whether they're the best people ever, because at a certain point, we have to say we are us and they are them. They've got somewhere else to go to, like they enrich our society. Why don't they enrich their own societies? If they're such a boon to us, why couldn't they be a boon to themselves? you know? So even though the absolute best people ever, you want to be able to just say, well, this is our place. This is our home. Like, I'm not the best person ever, but you can't come and live in my house because it's my house. Doesn't matter whether even if you turn up and you make it better, right? It's still, I want to have my own space and my own zone, you know, and that's fine. So
You seem very well researched. You seem as if you know your history as well. Do you do a lot of reading?
On the 20th century, I don't know, you know what, I'm a dad now, so I don't have time for all that. And with the work that I do, I'm always out and about, going here, going there, you know, so I don't have the time to read. I've got Audible in my books, you know, I listen to books. I've read a load of books, you know, so I'm into modern history and I'm into 20th century history. I couldn't tell you much about ancient history that much. I know a bit about some things, and there's other things I don't know about. So.
But I think it keeps you in good stead for people who maybe try and debate you outside or maybe shouting stuff. If you're a bit educated on certain things, it gives you, like I say, it keeps you in good stead to attack with your words as well. Because there's a lot of people who do it. There's a lot of people who go to these marches as well and don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
No.
I'm in that sort of bracket as well, but I just know how I see the world and for my children and how I want a better future, and they've got to be protected, because I've interviewed people who's abused in the grooming gangs. I've interviewed people whose families suffer because it's a fucking death sentence. It's a life sentence for these people.
Yeah.
And I know the full package of what goes on, and I've been speaking about this for the last 6-7 years, but it's good to have a good understanding of everything and know what you're fighting for and know what you're standing for, because I think a lot of people are confused what they're fighting for.
Well, it's good when I'm talking to you, and for the people who are listening to this podcast, then, you know, because they're willing to listen and willing to pay attention to it. But I think when you, like I say, with arguing with people on the extremes, they've already made up their mind. The battle is for the people who are apolitical or haven't made up their mind yet. Really, that's the hearts and minds that we're trying to win over. Really, so it's good to talk to some people as long as you're willing to listen. But like, you know, you can talk to these people till you're blue in the face about Russia and Ukraine or Israel and Palestine or whatever, and they're not gonna hear you out. So. You know, it's pearls before swine, really. So I save my pearls for James English.
Thank you for that. But I do see people, you do see women with Palestine shirts and flags from Britain, and I think you wouldn't survive if you actually went in Palestine. Like, it's mad how we support something but don't know what we're talking about. Like, people who've got a rough understanding go, wait a minute, you're a gay man waving a Palestine flag, you'd be stoned to death.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how people are supporting something they don't know, and I don't know the ins and outs of Palestine and Israel, and to be frank, I'm not asked. I'm from Britain, I'm from Scotland, that's my people first.
Yeah.
And I don't want wars in a perfect world, but there is wars. Same as when I interview veterans, I've got nothing but respect for their service.
Yeah.
Because some people choose to go and fight for different reasons, want money, want to travel away from the shitty homes, just have a roof over their head.
All that.
Multiple. It's not about fighting for your country. People have got so many different aspects why they fight. In their mind, they're doing it for the right reason, though. So you've got nothing but respect. It's not until veterans came out, they question, what was I really fighting for? You look at Iraq and weapons of mass destruction.
Even World War II.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the Gulf of Tonkin incident where they faked the fucking shootings of the boat so they could attack Vietnam. So there's so much corruption. But people don't see that because they think they're doing it for the right reasons. Same as 9/11. So many soldiers join because they want to protect their family and fight for their country. It's honourable until you come back and maybe start questioning things. So everybody, I don't even know where the fuck I was going with that story there.
When you sell a product, like, you know, I read this book called Propaganda by Edward Bernays. Really, really, really. I mean, it's a tiny little pamphlet, but he's the guy that he's Sigmund Freud's nephew, and he came up with the modern way of marketing things to people. And you know, in the past, they'd be like, hey, so this bottle of water, it's this big, it contains this much water, it costs this much, the water's really nice, do you want to drink it? Here's how much it costs, here's where you can buy it. That's what adverts used to be like. And then they realized that, like, how you make people feel is much more important as to whether they buy something. So if you're selling in the book, it talks about a piano, right? You could talk about how good the piano is, whatever, but no one's going to care. Whereas if you set up an event where lots of famous people are involved and there's some sort of drama around it, and an event happening and people can attach themselves to the emotion, then people will be more inclined, because when you buy something, it's because you like the salesman, or you like the way you feel, or the way it makes you feel at a particular moment in time. So people get caught. No one thinks they're doing the wrong thing on purpose. Everyone think, like, well, some people do think that, but a tiny minority of people that want to do bad things on purpose. But most people think that they're in the right and they're fighting for what's right. So I think I'm fighting what's right for what's right, and they think that they're fighting for what's their right, what they think is right. You know. So,
what's your daily routine like now?
Oh, I get up in the morning, I walk around, I make myself a coffee. I go and look after my son. I train martial arts. I lift a bit of weights. I work on the weekends. I used to work doing doors, but I don't do that anymore because I can't be in one place where people are going to see me, know exactly I work on this door at this particular time, etc. So it's not practical for me to do that anymore.
Sitting duck.
So yeah, so I just it's a great life, to be honest with you. I have a really nice life apart from the walking around certain areas and neighborhoods with certain demographics that don't particularly like me. And if they knew me, they probably would like me. But well, they might do, hopefully. So that's I wouldn't say I have a real routine. I still live like I used to live. Like I was always coasting in the past. Really, I just and people are like, oh, you need to stop watching your YouTube videos and you need to stop. You need to go and get a proper job or whatever. I was going to go to college until it started. I was going to go and do access to medicine and then try and get into that sort of thing because I've got a brain for remembering a lot of details and whatever. So I was going to try and go down that route, and then I ended up just getting forced down this like YouTube influencer route. So I'm playing the ball as it lies, really. I'm just, taking it as it comes.
You smashed it. I'm a big fan of your work.
Thank you.
What Charlie does is amazing as well.
Thank you.
Scottish.
I love him.
Yeah, just a big fucking...
You know what? I don't agree with him on everything.
Yeah, of course. I don't agree with Tommy and everything, or Liam, or whoever.
Why should you?
But there's certain things... It's just like if I spoke to someone earlier, like Christianity, it makes sense, yeah. Do you know what? You've got a fair point there.
Yeah.
But if I speak to someone who's maybe against it, I go, do you know what? You've got a fair point also.
I could be convinced of... Most people can make a pretty good argument for why their religion is the best, or their ideology is the best, or whatever. Everybody's got that. So that's the brilliant thing about free speech, is it allows everybody to just think what they want and and get on with life. But certain people aren't happy with that. We can tolerate everyone except for those that are intolerant of everyone. So in order to have a free society, we have to let people get on and do whatever they want. So if other people want to come along and force you into communism or extreme Islam or anything like that, that can't be tolerated. Can't be tolerated.
Humans want to be guided.
Yeah.
They done a study. It was like
thinking's hard.
A room with
hard.
like doctor. Everybody was sitting in a seat, but then they had an actor. It was like a bell went off every minute, and the actor stood up. Within 10 minutes, everybody in that room was standing up.
Was that the Ash experiment?
Possibly,
because they had one where they had the 4 lines on the wall, and the whole classroom full of actors, and the one person they'd be testing would be to see if he conforms with what the people in the class say. So they'd all say that the lines are different sizes, even though they're clearly all the same, and they can get loads of people to admit what they know in their heart isn't true just because everyone else is saying it.
Yeah.
And then they'd introduce other people into the experiment who would then suddenly start who were also actors that would suddenly no, they're all the same size. Then all of a sudden people would find the courage to say, actually, yeah, they're all the same size. Thinking about stuff is hard, and coming up with your own opinions or whatever is hard.
Because we're scared of being wrong.
Yeah,
we're scared of what people think. So that's why people choose a side. That's why people look for dictators or leaders or governments to lead them, because we're all confused. No one knows what the fuck is going on. There's no really individuality or creativity. We've got a few men who are willing to stand at the forefront, have a set of balls and go, do you know what? I believe this, even though it's going to be backlash. That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Well, putting your hand up in class and trying to get the answer and being wrong, and teacher is embarrassing, because what if you say something stupid, everyone thinks you're stupid now. The fool who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The fool who doesn't ask a question is a fool for a lifetime.
Yeah, but that's why schools don't want you putting your hand up and questioning the narrative, because you get the red face, you get embarrassed, and you think, I'm never asking questions again.
Yeah.
Just before we finish up, autism. I don't like the fact of labels, but were you diagnosed with autism?
Yeah. I would say so.
So what is autism for people who don't know? We've got ADHD, autism, we've got so many labels now.
Autism means everything now. Like, so if you've got dyspraxia or dyslexia or dyscalculia or anything like that, you'll be put under autism, not otherwise specified. So in the past, you used to be like, licking the windows and going, nah, and fucking whatever. Like when I was in school, you had to be like rocking back and forth and stuff. Now it's
pillow around the head.
But now it's like, oh, you watch anime, do you? Well, fucking autism now. There you go. You know. So I think it's just obviously some people are really like, I think real autism, right, is the car door slams and the kid goes wild because the noise is too much for him, or or you don't put something in the right box and the kid has a fucking meltdown because he needs to know exactly where everything is and have everything under total control. So like I say on the Liam Tusk one, the autism is the extreme male brain, I think. So I don't really think that I've got it, but the doctor said that I did, so I do.
Did not say it's a superpower now?
Huh?
Did it not say it's a superpower now?
I mean, it can be. When nature gives you one thing, it takes away from you in the other. So some people are freak athletes, but they're not that smart in history or English or whatever. Other people are like mathematical geniuses, but they're really uncoordinated. So it's everyone's got their like comparative advantage, and you just need to press that. really. And that applies to everybody, whether you've got autism or some mental. Everybody's got something that they're good at, something that they're bad at, something they naturally drift towards, and so you have to just lean into what is good and try and leverage that as best as you can. You know.
Plans for the future, Fred? What's your social media? I know you've got a YouTube channel you're starting up. So
I have a YouTube channel. It's Fred_CPO.
Everybody got over and subscribe. There's going to be some great content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's your plans for the future, brother?
Tonight I'm going out to Barcelona with Tyler Oliveira, doing some scam videos for 2 weeks around. We're going to go to Lisbon and Amsterdam, Prague, Berlin, Barcelona, maybe Frankfurt. I'm not sure about Frankfurt, but yeah. So that's what I'm doing with him. Just he contacted me the other day, said, "Can you fly out?" And that's what I certainly can fly out. Yeah.
How many subscribers has he got?
8 million or something. 8 million.
You're doing your videos. Make sure you're speaking about your own YouTube channel.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just business now. You've got to use and utilize everybody for your own gain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're getting views from you, so you've got to then plug it and go, "Do you know what? It's a fair exchange." So everybody who watches or listens, go and subscribe to Fred.
Well, friendship is a value exchange. When you're with a woman, it's a value exchange. You're providing something, she's providing something, and in the middle of that, you know, you find the friendship and the common ground. Doesn't mean that you're using me or I'm using you or whatever. We're you know, it's you scratch my back, I scratch your back type of situation, you know.
For anybody that's in a life of struggle, I know you've had your own battles in life, but what advice would you have for them?
I would say do martial arts, because martial arts condenses the life experience into into a short period of time. You know, you have a learning period, a suffering period, a mastering period. So it provides you with like a hero's journey of like, you know, a beginning and a middle and an end, and it introduces artificial hardship into you. You know, so where you're like, you know, when you've been like dominated by someone, you know, there's suddenly a lot of life's problems. They fade by the wayside. You know, you don't like care about them too much anymore. You know, you don't. So it introduces like some artificial hardness into you, and like a lot of time people are living in like a very like safe way, you know, with no real issues or whatever. But you know, when you don't have any issues, like you've got enough money to feed yourself, and you know, you go to the gym, you go to work, you go home and see your girlfriend, and you rinse repeat over and over and over again. Your life gets boring. You create your own troubles for yourself, and you start stewing on stuff and whatever. So I'd say, like, you know, like a dog that you keep inside a house all the time and don't take it for a walk, he's going to go insane. So take your dog for a walk, aka work yourself out, and become strong in your mind and your body, and maybe you'll be better equipped to deal with the problems that are facing you. But maybe not. You know, there's still some problems that are so extreme that there's nothing you can really do about it, and that's life.
Would you like to finish up on anything else, Fred?
You can ask me another question. Yes, I'm better in a conversational, argumentative mode. That's why that's why I don't go out filming people on the street. You know, like Charlie's got this amazing ability to film something and be like, "Here's a lot of commentary on it. Here's what I say on it." Right? I only get that when someone talks to me, and I can bounce off and back. You know, so far anyway, I haven't mastered the art of just commentary from my own head.
Listen, Fred, like I say, big fan of your work. I think what you've done is amazing, and knowing your backstory, it's good to get a bit more understanding of what you've done, what you've overcome, and what you're planning for the future.
Yeah.
But like I say, I'm rooting for you, brother.
Thanks
I
for
wish
having
you
me on.
nothing but the best for the future.
Brilliant.
God bless and
Nice
take care, Fred.
Thank you.
See you soon, bro.
Nice one, mate.